Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Welcome to Pandora's Box again, everybody. We've got a special guest on the show today, Mr. Alan Thrall. For people that don't know, Alan Thrall is a gym owner from Sacramento, California, owns Untamed Strength. Is also a former US Marine, as well as many other things. Father, husband, lover. So yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Alan. Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on.
You're also very well respected in the YouTube fitness community, if you want to call it that. As I said, that's where I know you from. I think it was like 2016, might have even been 2015. I don't know. When did you start your YouTube channel?
I started putting videos up in 2013. The first round of instructional videos that just were kind of outside of just the gym would have been in 2014, so about a year after opening. So yeah, 2015, 16 would have been like kind of peak, I would say.
Yeah, I reckon it was like probably late 2015 when I first came across your channel, and man, I'm not going to lie, I'm like fangirling a little bit today, Alan, because like we've had like a lot of guests on the show, many great guests, and I was so humbled to have every single one on the show, like, you know, like a world-class weightlifting champions, world-class musicians and stuff, but I've been a big fan of yours for like a very long time, and I think, I don't know what it is, but I didn't think that I'd probably ever have like a one-on-one conversation with you, and I've watched so many of your videos like with my missus for so many years, like it would have just almost become part of our routine to like have our dinner in the evening, watch, you know, the latest Alan Thrall video or something, and you know, like I'm a metler. You know, I've been lifting weights since, you know, I played rugby in school, started lifting weights, you know, and when I found your channel, I was like, this guy's got long hair and a big beard. I, at the time, had really long hair as well. I was like, he's got a really silly sense of humor, which I do as well. You know, you're like, metler, putting out all this great content. I was just loving it, man. I was like, this is like, it was like tailor-made for me. It was like, I was like, this guy was almost like, if you said like, right, somebody needs to make like a YouTube channel for Calum. It was like, you basically did that. So, so yeah, thanks, man. It's been
nice,
great
man.
to...
Yeah, I'm also glad we can talk, and then we can connect like this. I think it's awesome. If anyone asks, you know, hey, do you have some time to chat? I'm all for it, regardless of what we talk about. Yeah, I'd much rather have something more personal like this anyways than, you know, being on YouTube and answering comments or something like that. So it's nice just to talk to someone. So
awesome, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, like, without trying to make you blush, like, I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people like you as well, because you're, even though you're clearly like a successful guy, you're like very down to earth. And I think that's like very appealing to people. You know, I think some people, they get like a bit of a taste of success or something, it like goes to their head, but you just seem like a real salt of the earth guy, man. And it's just nice to see, you know? Yeah,
absolutely. I hear you.
But I was going to say, usually what I do with all of the guests on Pandora's Box, and I'd like to do with you, as long as it's all right, Alan, and I like to do this for several reasons. It makes it easy for me in terms of sort of continuity with the show, but also it's interesting for me, and I think interesting for listeners, whether they have never heard of you before or whether they have, is to almost like go back almost like to the beginning of your life and almost like tell your life story, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So were you born in Sacramento?
Yeah, I was. A place called Orangevale, which is right near the gym, actually. My whole family's been here for my whole life. And so I've never even had relatives that lived like out of state. So I've always been in this area. And when I left to join the Marine Corps, it was the first time I've been away from home, really. And I was excited to get back.
The first time you left the state, like even?
No, I've been, I mean, pretty much. I did not travel much growing up because I've got 4 brothers, so there was 5 of us. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked construction a lot of hours, and so we didn't have a bunch of money to go take 5 kids to travel anywhere. We drove the biggest trip we ever did was driving to Disneyland in a van, but we never flew anywhere or anything like that. But anyways, while I was in the Marine Corps, I just couldn't wait to get back to my hometown. I just like it here. And so I started my own gym and settled in, started a family here also. But yes, I did grow up in this area.
That's nice, man. I mean, I think, you know, and I think it's what is right for the individual is obviously like it varies massively. But I think it's nice to see with some people. I think a lot of people, you know, their main thing that they want to do is like travel, or sometimes maybe have like a grass is greener on the other side mentality a little bit in life sometimes. But I think it's really nice to hear for once, like, oh, this is where I grew up and I just really like it here, so I'm just happy here. Like, it's like very like simple but very nice, you know.
Yeah, I think I've always been a routine person as long as I can remember. So I just do like routine. So yeah, I'm not the type of person like, let's get up and go somewhere completely new. While doing the Marine Corps was that experience, but shortly after doing that, I was like, I just kind of realized I do like to be at home or like my routine. So,
So where did you go to school, man?
I went to you're talking what, elementary school, high school, what kind of?
Yeah, like both. Started in elementary school, yeah.
Yeah, so I went to, all of that was just right here in town. Middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school was all here in town. And then when I was done with high school, I just went to a community college for a little bit, just because that's what I thought I was supposed to do, and struggled to figure out if I was going to continue college because I just didn't know what else I wanted to do. And that's when the idea of the military had been in my head, but that's when I actually kind of pounced on it and went forward with it. But yeah, I just went to school in this area. No education beyond a little bit of community college.
What were your like memories of school? Did you enjoy going to school?
Yeah, I was a good kid growing up. I always got really good grades, and I think when I think back on why that was, I think it's because, well, I know it's because my two older brothers, I'm a middle child. I have two older brothers and two younger brothers. And my two older brothers were always getting into trouble, especially the one right above me. Trouble like pot, which was a big deal, you know, in the 90s. Yeah. But and especially as a kid. So pot, he'd get drunk, he'd run away from home. My parents would call the cops on him at times when he was away from home. They'd call the cops on him because he wouldn't listen in the house. So the cops would show up to the house to try to kind of, you know, discipline him or talk to him. Yeah. He got expelled from school. So I would just see all of this and just know that I didn't want any part of that at all. And it kind of like, you know, scared me straight. Like, man, I don't want to mess up like my brothers. And I'd see them or hear them, you know, smoking weed, or see them come home drunk or something like that. My brother would run away from home, and then my parents would tell me, Alan, if your brother comes to your window at night, knocking on the window to come in, don't let him in. And I'm like, okay. And so late at night, here he comes. He's banging on the window. Let me in. Open the fucking window. And I'm like, I'm not gonna say no, like, so I was just kind of torn. So anyways, like stuff like that, like, you know, it scared me a little bit as a kid. Like, I don't want to be like that. And so I just assumed, like, you need to stay away from drugs. You need to do good in school. And I think that's why I got into, yeah, exactly. That's why I got into sports also. And so I was a good kid, would, you know, never missed class, never missed school, never played hooky and ditched school, had good grades. And I would say that my most memorable part of high school was sports, was track and field, but mainly football. And it shaped me into the person that I am today. It's where I found my love for lifting weights and for training and exercise and just being physical and pushing myself. And that kind of went hand in hand with getting good grades as well, because when you're playing sports, you have to have good grades because you have to, at the time, you had to show your report card to your coach. And so I wanted to, like, impress him, you know, to say, wow, look at, he's doing really well. And I wanted to, if you had any issues, like you got detention or you had a certain amount of tardies, that would also go to your coach. The teachers would just let the coach know. And I just wanted, more than anything, I just wanted to impress my coach. I really looked up to this guy, my high school football coach. And he was a part of, like, my day, the entire day, because we would have 0 period weight training. And then once, that means you get off a little bit earlier than the other kids. And so during the time between, you know, your period that you don't have of school and football practice, we'd go to the weight room and we would watch film or discuss plays or whatever it is. And then we go to practice. So I see this coach 3 times a day. So I looked up to him. And so I wanted to, so anyways, to kind of recap all of my school, at least in high school, good grades, obsessed with exercise, physical training, and sports. And those are my most fond memories of school.
Do you feel like quite thankful to your brothers now in a way? Because you could have turned out radically different if it wasn't for them almost scaring you straight from their behavior.
Yeah, and I don't want to paint them as like like junkies or something like that.
They were like normal guys, really. Like,
right. It's like honestly, any teenager in the '90s was like listening to rock and Nirvana and getting stoned and all that stuff and going to parties.
Hey, very normal, very normal.
Right. So it wasn't like they were shooting heroin or anything, but they were
no.
They were definitely getting into trouble, and they turned out great. Like my brother is the oldest one, or the one that's older than me, is doing fine right now. My oldest brother he eventually joined the Marine Corps. He's now in law enforcement. So they all they're doing their thing.
I've seen a couple of your brothers in your various videos like over the years. I know you've had a couple of them in.
Probably my younger brothers, especially when I first started the gym. They were around the gym a lot more. They're busy with their career and their families now, but at the time we were just kind of me and my two younger brothers were just three dudes with no girlfriends, no nothing really. So we had all the time in the world to work out and all that. But yes, I am kind of thankful, and I didn't know it at the time, but just looking back on it, I wouldn't say that my parents didn't give me attention, but maybe just being a middle child, I kind of, subtly or subconsciously sought attention by just doing well in school, being active in sports, and just trying not to attract. Exactly, yeah. Trying not to attract any negative attention.
I think as well, like you can understand. Like I'm a dad, and I know you are too, Alan. Like sometimes it's hard. Like and I don't want this to sound like bad because it doesn't. But I'm just trying to be realistic. Like sometimes you have to make an effort to like give your kids attention, because if you're busy and you work all the time and you're trying to do a lot of housework to help out your missus, and you've got stuff to do out the back, and things like that. Like your life is so busy. Of course you ideally would just like play with your kids all day, but that's not realistic. And, you have to balance your responsibilities and your jobs with, being like a present, like parent, So, yeah. I mean, I can sympathize or empathize with your parents, especially if they are having 5 kids. Like, I mean, that's a lot of kids really, by most people's standards,
Yeah, my mom's busy juggling, raising 5 boys, and then my dad's working 10-hour days, 6 days a week. So that it was tough. And you're spot on with what you said about being present. And it's something that I'm learning as my kids get older, and that I've put more focus on. Because when my son was first born, you don't think like, they're too young, they're hardly talking, they don't need you to be there and present, like as long as I'm around. But it's not the case. You actually have to be engaged with them, and actually play with them. And you're right. You want to, surely, in a perfect world, you could just do whatever you want and hang out with them all day. But there's part of you that says, I need to be around and I need to be an actual influence on this kid's life. But the other part of you is like, I need to make money and I need to provide for this family. I need to work.
That's it. That's like the backbone of it all, isn't it?
Right. And it's important not to fall back so much on, thankfully I'm not in a position where I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but you don't want to fall back on, I got to work just so I can take care of the kids, when, you have to work to an extent, but the other part of it has to be actually there and present with them.
Yeah, man. So, sorry, going back to school, when did you start weight training? How old were you when you started weight training?
It would have been in middle school. So I would say 7th grade. So that would, you go into middle school at about 14 years old. So it would have been 12 or 13. I started doing Pop Warner football, which is the, elementary school style football before you get into high school. And so I was playing football then, and I was, even before that, I was still actively exercising, but not formally weight training. We had a family gym membership at a local gym, and I would go to the gym and just kind of do some things on machines. But then I remember in 8th grade in middle school, the high school football coach that I talked about, he came to our middle school because it was sort of the feeder middle school into this high school. And he came to my middle school, and it was, we had an announcement. Hey, at lunchtime, if you want to play high school football for this high school, the coach is going to be there answering questions and talking to you guys. You should go if you want to play. So I did want to play football. So I went to this meeting, and the coach was there, and he was talking about how they have a weight training class, a summer weight training camp. And he said that he opens it up to incoming freshmen. So even if you're not at the school yet, you can still come. And so I went to the summer camp, the football summer camp. And this was my first real introduction to weights. I actually remember one side story. I remember we had a small weight room in my middle school. I don't know who used it. I think it wasn't like a free-for-all that anyone could use. Middle schoolers aren't going to go use the weight room. But there were like a few old machines. And the PE coaches, sometimes, I didn't ever go through it, but sometimes they would use that weight room as part of the curriculum. So we're going to have a couple of weeks in the weight room to teach you how to lift weights. But they were mainly machines. I remember when this football coach came in and told us we were doing weight training, he kind of led us around and let us use some of the machines. And I went to the leg press machine. It was a loadable, not plate loadable, but it was a selectorizer weight machine. And it was old, really old. Like the foot plate was about that, just this tiny little tiny foot plate. Yeah. And I remember getting on, and I put it on the middle of the stack, and I pushed it all the way out. And then I went to the next one, and I pushed it, and I went to the whole stack, and me and whoever else is there, we're trying to 1 rep max this one stack, and I got it, and I'm like proud of myself. And I think that was because I was a really good runner at the time, so I could run fast, I could run long distance, so maybe my legs were strong from doing that. And then we went on to a bench press machine, and I remember trying to bench, and all these guys out-benched me, and I kind of like that. I think back to that being the root of my disdain for bench press, maybe. Like I just hate it from then on. But I remember I did 95 pounds, and it wasn't a barbell bench. It was just a bench with plates, and I don't know how accurate that was, but I went to 95 pounds, and I could get that, and I couldn't get the next one. But anyways, I had went to this weight room with this high school football coach when I was in 8th grade, like the spring of 8th grade before I graduated. And this weight room had about 4 squat racks, 4 deadlift platforms. We didn't do deadlifts. We just did Olympic lifts and variations. We did the clean and clean variations. They had 3 benches. They had a dip station with pull-up bars, and then a dumbbell area. And so when I went in there, we did squats, we did cleans, we did clean like high pulls and jump shrugs, we did bench press, we did sometimes we would do a standing overhead press, we did a lot of dumbbell stuff, so a lot of like curls, lateral raises, and dumbbell shoulder press, dumbbell bench. We did a lot of ab stuff with partners, so sit-ups, like leg throws where you lay down and someone throws your legs down, and sprints and jumps. So on paper, it was a perfect program. I had a very, very good experience, my first formal experience to weightlifting in high school football. And usually that's not the case. People will say, I had terrible high school coaches who didn't know what they were doing. We were squatting, quarter squatting. We were doing all this and that, bad form. That wasn't the case at all. My coach took weight training very seriously. He was a D1 college football player, offensive lineman at Kansas State. So he had been in the weight room before. He knew what he was doing. We had to squat deep all the way down. You had to keep your back flat. You couldn't round your back over when you were squatting. It was always like, looking back, it was always a high bar squat. People would put the bar really low on their back, and you'd tell them not to. So deep, high bar, neutral stance squats. We never really did 1 rep maxes. It was always in the 6 to 8 to 12 range. Sometimes we did 1 rep max, but that was always like every 3 months. Cleans were always pull the bar high, get under it, you do a full squat with the clean, no starfish cleans. Bench press was always touch your chest, always lock the weight out. If the spotter touches the bar, it's to take the weight off of you. It doesn't count if he touches it. Keep your butt on the bench. Push-ups, got to lock your arms out, got to hit your chest to the ground. Pull-ups, got to pull your chin over the bar, can't swing your body. We'd put our arms in front of the guy's legs so that you had to, like you were doing a pull-up against a wall, you couldn't swing your legs. So it was all very strict stuff. And
you had a great teacher.
Yes.
Great teacher.
Music was blasting. He was a big fan of Metallica, and it's probably where my love for Metallica
Is that how you got into it, do you reckon?
I think it was more my brothers, because they listened to they had CDs that I would just listen to with them, but they would listen to just pretty mainstream stuff, Metallica, a lot of Tool, like Godsmack and Disturbed and stuff like that. But my football coach liked that stuff also. So he would blast that music. You weren't talking. You were either loading weights, you were spotting, you were lifting, you were pushing really, really hard. We didn't have cell phones, which helped. So there was just no distractions. It was like down and dirty, great workouts. It was always 1 hour training sessions, and we would get all that work in this hour. So it was an outstanding, I couldn't have asked for a better experience growing up. I soon realized that I love weight training just as much as I loved playing football. So yeah.
Man, it sounds like a great experience. Like, even as you're like talking to me about it, I'm almost like getting like excited hearing you talking about it.
Yeah.
But also, I think like fair play to your coach, because I think like my biggest my biggest pet peeve to this day is like, you know, if like you're on Instagram or something and you see somebody and they're like, got a new bench PR, and they like half rep it, and you just think, no mate, you haven't.
You're not kidding anyone.
Yeah, I always think like, you know, like, and I always say this to everybody that like, you know, if they're just getting into like training or something for the first time, I say like, look, like people will respect you more for like lifting a lighter weight with full range of motion rather than a half rep with a heavier weight. Like, don't get caught up in that. Just, well, as long as the weight on the bar is like the heaviest thing I could possibly lift for like a quarter rep, like it doesn't matter. You know, you're way more likely to get injured. It's not like in any like competition style thing, it wouldn't count. You know, so. You know, and you're, you know, and probably like in terms of like health and that, just taking it through the full range of motion, you know, is, you know, making sure your tendons and muscles are strong all the way through, you know, through the bar path and stuff like that. But yeah, sounds like you had a great coach, man. So you were like hooked. You say you liked it as much, if not more, than football by this point. Yeah,
I would say that I like the training aspect as much as football. But with that said, once football ended, so I thought that I was going to play college football. That's like that's what you want to do when you're playing high school football and you're a decent player. You want to go on and play college ball.
Were you a good player?
I was, yeah. I was a good high school player, yeah. And I could have went and played football at a couple other colleges on my own. I would have been a walk-on, no scholarships or anything like that. But I know that once I graduated high school, I just thought to myself, I think it was so ingrained in me that this weight training helped me be a better football player, and that's why I did it. That I didn't really see the point or the excitement in doing it recreationally, and so I thought, if I'm not playing football, why am I doing cleans? Why am I trying to squat more weight? I didn't really get it at the time, and I actually switched to marathon running or long distance running. And so I switched and I did that. And I did that leading up till when I went to boot camp in the Marine Corps. And it wasn't until after boot camp, about a year into the Marine Corps, that I started lifting again for myself. And I just fell back in love with it. And I was like, I'm obsessed with this. This is all I want to do. But there was a period of time when I didn't lift weights, and it was kind of like this, I don't really understand the point of doing all this in the weight room if I'm not playing football. I think it was just because I just thought, I'm a football player. This is what I do. I train really hard, and you know, leading up to it. It was never a recreational thing, but eventually that switched.
Yeah. I guess it's like nowadays, like I can imagine you see it as, well, you know that it's going to keep you fit into old age. It's going to make you a better, even like husband, father. It's going to make you a more useful human being. There's like so many benefits to working out on a regular basis, rather than like, well, I'm a football player, so I'm going to train for football. But if I'm not playing football, I'm not going to train. Like, simple as that.
Yeah, and when I was 18, graduating high school, I didn't think about like, I need to continue doing this to increase muscle size and bone density and health reasons. I didn't think of that at all. It was just, I wanted to be a better football player. And now that I'm not playing football, what's the point? Not to say that I was like turned my nose up at it. I just found another passion, and so I just started doing long distance running. So
to be fair, I think that's pretty natural. I think when you're like a teenager, I don't think you look at things in like the big picture more like when you do when you're older. I think that's something that comes more. I mean, obviously, I can only speak for myself. I think it probably varies a little bit on the individual, depending on the individual. But I think maybe when you're in your late 20s, you start thinking more on like a broader scale. Maybe like thinking, you become aware of like things like your mortality. Started like thinking in a more philosophical way, maybe, rather than when you're a teenager, you're just like, I want to do this, so I'm going to do that. And it's a bit more like a simple mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of young 20-year-olds, they tend to, and again, myself included, I've been through all of this, but we tend to get so strongly tied to identities. So I was a football player, I'm going to train like a football player. And then after that, I got into long distance running, and I would read books about from other long distance runners because I just liked what they were saying, and it just attracted me. And so I was like, I'm a long distance runner. And then it goes to, I'm a power lifter. I want to identify with this group. I'm a power lifter, whatever. I'm a weightlifter. I'm in CrossFit, and so you really get attached to that identity and that community. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It just be aware of when you need to switch gears. But when you're in your mid 30s, 40s, it's more of like, what can I do consistently? What brings me joy, and what are my values now? It's much less tribalism involved, in lifting. But I do think that people do get really all in with the communities and the identities. So I think that's what I did for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's the word I was going to use. It's like tribalism, isn't it? We are like just tribal creatures, like naturally. And whether it's like, oh, I'm a metaler, or I'm a punk, or I'm into rap, or even with you could have anything. It could be arguing over like ketchup or mayonnaise, But it's like, you want to put yourself into like a category, and then you're like die hard. And I think obviously the older you get, you realize, or at least most people realize, that's a bit silly, really. And like life can be, should be more complicated than that, and more nuanced than that. But it's funny how it almost feels comforting to us to be that tribal with stuff. And I guess like when you were reading your like long distance, running books and stuff like that, I can imagine it was like saying, obviously it's detrimental to be like heavy and to have all this like thick muscle, because it's gonna, if you weigh over 200 pounds and you're like slamming your knees into the road like all the time, you're not obviously going to be able to perform anywhere near as a guy that weighs 150 pounds. Yeah,
it's very much like I want to do long distance running. Like you said, being heavy does not facilitate, easy training. It's harder if you're heavier. So you tend to identify like, I'm a long distance runner, so I'm going to try to look like a long distance runner.
Did you lose loads of weight?
No, not really, because in high school, I got to like 195. And I would say before I joined the Marine Corps, which was, less than 2 years after that, I went into Marine Corps 180. So I didn't understand in high school any sort of like concept of bulking or anything like that.
Yeah.
I would just eat food because I was hungry, and I would eat whatever I had available at home. But I was never, like, you got to bulk, you got to eat calories to gain weight. I thought you just build muscle by lifting. And that probably is the case if you're 17 years old.
Yeah,
but yeah, so I didn't try to actively lose weight, but I was just doing less heavy lifting. I was still doing push-ups and pull-ups and all that. I did the P90X workouts, but I was just doing way more running. And I think I just liked the challenge. I was just attracted to the challenge of long-distance running. So it was a new challenge for me that I kind of I went it all in for. But yeah, so there is that too. You are now part of this group. It's time to look and act like this person that fits into this group. So people tend to do that.
Did you like go running in groups and stuff like that, or did you do it on your own?
No, so the story about that was a friend of mine who I did track and field with, he gave me a book and he said, "Hey, check this book out. It's wild." He'd tell me a couple stories about it. And so for whatever reason, I don't even know why, wasn't like a big reader, but I just said, yeah, I'll read it. And I was just like fascinated by it. It was this book called Confessions of an All-Night Runner. Ultra Marathon Man, Confessions of an All-Night Runner. And this guy runs, a couple 100 miles, 300 miles at a time. He would just had crazy stories. Like he would go run, he would work a corporate job in San Francisco. When he was done with his work, he'd go run all night, and then he'd go back to work. Like just wild stuff.
Just
like
never
that.
Sleep.
Yeah, I'm serious. And he would do things like, he's well known in the long distance community. His name's Dean Karnazes. But he would do things like he had to get a bunch of calories in if he's running for 12 hours. And so he would like stop by a corner store and just get a bunch of like hot dogs. He'd get like huge Slurpees and like just put like packets and packets of salt in them, and drink that while he's running. And he would order pizza, and he would get it delivered, and he would say, how long is it going to take? And they'd say, oh, it'll be ready in 35 minutes. And he would know, I'm going to be at this intersection in 35 minutes. So they would deliver it to him on the run. And it'd be like late at night.
Comical.
So they'd hand the pizza out to him, and he would say, can I give you the box back? And he would roll the pizza up, and then they'd take the box, and he'd just eat this pizza as he's running. So it's just crazy stories like that I was like, this is funny, but this sounds like pretty cool, And he said a lot of good things about the benefits of running. And so that kind of got me into it. And I remember my first run was 4 miles. I knew this loop that was about that. So I said, I'm going to go run 4 miles. And it was really, really hard, but I liked it. So that's why I started doing the long distance running. It was just another outlet to challenge myself and be competitive, where I didn't really see that. Not to mention, at the time, the gym that I went to, I loved doing cleans with bumper plates in the weight room, but you weren't even allowed to do deadlifts there at the time.
Yeah.
They didn't have bumper plates. I couldn't do cleans. I was like, I can't train like a football player anyways, in at least my idea of it. So that's why I got into running. Yeah.
I've had negative experiences like that in gyms as well before. And it seems like funny, I think, doesn't it? In like retrospect, you look back and you think that there would actually be like a gym that would put you off doing like a clean or a deadlift or something, because it should be silly, really, shouldn't it? I think, or at least I think it is. I mean, I guess that's just my opinion. I'm sure there are lots of people out there that would disagree with me, but I just think to try and almost like put somebody off, like act like somebody's like inconsiderate because they're deadlifting or something like that. Like, I mean, it's a gym, it's not a library, it's a gym. Like, people go in a gym to work out. Like, and I think anything that falls under the working out, banner should be okay. Like in a gym, that's just my thought process anyway. But
I do understand it now that I'm a gym owner. Some people just don't want that type of training in their gym, and so they don't want literally they don't want the sound of slamming weights, because they have personal trainers working with clients that are a little bit timid, that are not, that are just kind of there to exercise, and that loud banging, like it, sometimes in the gym, if someone's doing like an Atlas stone load and they drop a 300-pound stone, from way up here, and it just boom, it's so loud,
shakes the room.
Or they're doing farmers carries, and we have this one particular pair that has these, they're not skis underneath, but it's just like metal, like iron beams. And every time they hit the ground, the concrete just, it's so loud. You can hear it everywhere. And so I can imagine if you have like some real like soft casual music going on in the background, it's a nice gym, everyone's keeping to themselves, and you just have this bang bang of someone deadlifting.
Kenny G on.
yeah, right. Yeah. And you have that, with some weights banging. People just don't like that. So I think it's like, can you stop doing that? But I think now gyms realize how popular barbell lifts have become, and so they have to accommodate, like some, but you have to kind of you have to play the game a little bit. And so times have definitely changed, because a lot of people are deadlifting in most any gym nowadays. Yeah. But back then you had to be at some hardcore gym in order to drop and slam weights.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I think nowadays like it's a lot more common. I don't know whether it's because of like, social media and YouTube and stuff like that. I think that strength sports are getting like more popular, or at least that's what it seems like to me. And like, you see like I see like a lot of young people nowadays like doing power lifts, getting into like strongman, like a lot more. Whereas, I mean, I remember when I started working out seriously with like weights when I was like probably late 15. I reckon I was about like 15, sort of when around the time I would have been finishing playing rugby in school, like 15, 16. Like, I didn't really know anybody else that lifted weights, because like in the UK it's not as common to like with like not with obviously football. You were saying in high school, you would have like a weight, your coach would like put you through weight training. Like, it wasn't really like that like in the UK. It's getting more like that now, but you just didn't really like have that. You would obviously playing rugby is going to make you strong, because you're like trying to tackle guys and lift up guys that sometimes might be bigger and heavier than you, but we didn't like necessarily train like that. So when I got into training, I was like the only person I knew my age that like trained. Whereas like now I look, and the amount of like 15 and 16 year olds now, like guys that are training, it's like, I mean, I don't know like in terms of percentages, but probably like 30-40% of 16 year olds nowadays where I live in the UK probably work out in the gym.
Yeah, you see it even competitively at meets. I'm not like an old school powerlifter, but I know back in the 90s, even as late as the early 2000s, guys will talk about powerlifting meets being just everyone was wearing at least single ply. And it was just this hardcore underground group of misfits, you know, who were into powerlifting. You go to a powerlifting meet now, some powerlifting meets are full, 60 lifters, 70 lifters, split over 2 days. There's, you know, like 80-year-old divisions, and there's people in it. There's men, there's women. There's handicap, adaptive athletes classes. There are so many different people, teen classes, youth. And so you just see the amount of people that are doing this like recreationally. I think the social media has definitely had an impact on that. But yeah, I don't know if fitness itself, just general fitness, has rise to where it is now, or if it's these niche, you know, sports like powerlifting and strongman and weightlifting are more popular. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? I think like
are gyms more busy now than they were 20 years ago? I don't really know.
I can definitely say, I reckon for where I live in the UK, obviously we live, you know, an ocean away from each other, but gyms are definitely busier now than they were 20 years ago. And not only that, but I can say in the town we're at, so we live in Bridgewater in a county called Somerset in the southwest. There are probably twice as many gyms in this town as there were when I started lifting weights. And each one is probably, each one is more busy as well, even though there are twice as many gyms. There might be more than twice as many gyms. But and it's like, you know, they're all, and when because we live in quite like a rural area of England, there were like no 24-hour gyms, for example, in our town when I was younger, whereas now there are like several 24-hour gyms. You know, just little things like that. And you could go there any time of day. There'd always be somebody there, like working out. You know. Yeah,
that's cool. So, I mean, I wonder also, it's nothing that we can accurately predict, but I wonder if the gyms are busier, or if there are more people exercising now than 20 years ago. Are we better off, or are we healthier? I don't know. You know, but it's just a funny thought.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting to think about, though, isn't it? I think maybe like you see pictures, obviously, from say when our grandparents were being younger, and it seemed like there was more of like people were more like standard across the board with maybe their fitness, whereas nowadays there seems to be more like extremism. So you've got like super fit people or like super unfit people, whereas probably in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, there was more like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a very good point. Yeah. People that are, like everyday Arnold Schwarzeneggers walking around. So many more of them. But then the other end of that, there are so many more too. So that's a great point. Yeah, there are. Yeah, both extremes.
Yeah, I think like for our generation, like for people like for like me and you, like, you know, you said you really got into it because you wanted to play football. Like I know I got into it because you know, my dad was a successful rugby player, and my Uncle Dom always just worked out in the gym, and he would babysit us. He was quite a lot younger than my mum. He was 10 years younger than my mum, my Uncle Dom, and he was really into, you know, all the action movies, you know, all the Arnie movies, Van Damme movies, like all just the classic action movies. So he sort of brought me up on them because, you know, he was still in his like early 20s, like maybe even late teens when he would babysit me and my brother when we were younger. So I almost got like indoctrinated. You know, I was like watching all of these movies. Yeah. And, you know, I would like, you know, we'd go to this like swimming pool with my dad, and the swimming pool had a gym. And so I would sometimes watch my dad work out. And, you know, you see it with like a big old school guy with like a mustache, my old man, you know, very sort of like Tom Selleck-y looking dude, you know. And I would just think it was like the coolest thing ever, like combining the, you know, watching all these action movies with my Uncle Dom and you know, watching my old man in the gym. I said my Uncle Dom would take me to the gym with him, and I'd see him do pull-ups and stuff. And when I was a little kid, I'd sit on his back and he'd do push-ups. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I would do that. But I think unless maybe you had, you know, maybe an influence like that, in our generation, or you know, specifically wanted to do like a sport where you were going down that, obviously it was less likely you'd get into it. Whereas nowadays it's plastered everywhere, all over social media. It's like, you know, think about how popular like someone like The Rock is, you know. Yep. And I remember, did you, sorry man, go on.
No, go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh no, all I was gonna, well no, you go ahead, because I was gonna say something a bit funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that a few, like 3 generations, not generations, but maybe there's a time when people got influenced by muscle magazines, and so that was their primary form of social media influence. And then moving on to the 80s and 90s, a lot of these action movies, which are huge in the 80s, that kind of became a source of inspiration. For me, it was the Rocky movies. My oldest brother was a boxer, and so we had all of the Rocky VHS tapes. And so I would watch those all the time. And that 100% influenced me, even before football, to start exercising and to start training. And so that was my influence. Whereas now, maybe past 2010, a lot of people get influence from social media or social media, influencers. So it's just different forms of influence coming out, I guess.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, I think, like back in those days, there was only probably about like 5 really famous action stars that have like had those larger than life physiques. We're talking about obviously like I mentioned like The Rock, just almost like, just like, just insanely big, chiseled cut, and, just like looked like something from a comic book, like brought to life. And there was probably only like about a handful of them. You had like Van Damme, Arnie, Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone. There might have been like 1 or 2 other that I'm just like can't think of off the top of my head, but it seemed like quite like a small category. And there weren't really any other actors in Hollywood or anything like that looked anything like those guys. Whereas I think, and it made me laugh the other day. I saw. Did you ever watch, like in the 90s? I grew up watching them, and I loved them at the time. They're quite hilarious looking back on them. But did you ever watch like Hercules: The Legendary Journeys and like Xena: Warrior Princess? Those like really corny 90s programs.
I've seen them, but never actually watched them or followed them at the time.
I could imagine you'd think they were pretty funny, but because they're just so freaking corny. But the guy that plays Hercules in them, his name's Kevin Sorbo, the actor, and he's like 6'3", I think, in real life, and like 210 pounds. And he was like obviously played Hercules, and he was in really good shape. Like by anybody's standards, he was like in really, really good shape. He clearly worked out regularly. I mean, big dude. And I saw a comment the other day on social media. Someone was talking about that program, and somebody put, in hindsight, I can't believe a medium-sized guy like Kevin Sorbo was cast as Hercules. And I thought, like, man, like, it just almost just goes to show that how common it is nowadays. You see movies with, like, Chris Hemsworth as Thor. You've got that new program Reacher out with that giant guy in it. He's like 6'5" and like 240 pounds of like solid muscle. That's like doing the rounds at the moment. You've got The Rock. You've got so many guys that like look like they could be those 1980s 90s action stars, that it's almost like we're so used to it that suddenly you're calling like 6'3", 210 pound, like a lean 210 pound guy. It's like, that can't believe that medium sized guy in the 90s was cast as Hercules. But I just thought it was like a funny observation, and just going to show that it is more mainstream now, and we obviously are exposed to it way more.
Yeah, I think it's a shame, definitely. But yeah, maybe at the time it was just, if you were tall and you exercised, and you were handsome, you could be Hercules. And honestly, that might be a more realistic depiction of those ancient characters. Not like some steroided out, like 6% body fat, like just totally unrealistic. And I'll often see that. I saw one this morning actually of an advertisement about I won't get too much into it, but it was depicting Roman soldiers. And it was, I don't know if it was AI or what, but it was just, all of them were just like clearly steroid out of their minds. I'm like, this guy is like going to a bodybuilding show. I don't think this was a Roman soldier. And I don't think that looking like that is going to help you be a Roman soldier either. No. Like it's just funny that we think like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can't remember. I remember reading once how many miles, I think, they used to have to travel so many miles every day. I can't remember what it was, but sometimes they would 30 miles a day in like 50 kilos of like armor and kit. Like, I don't think weighing 300 pounds and while you're 5'7" is gonna like,
you're not gonna be able to get your 3 hour protein synthesis meal in.
Anabolic window, like
That's funny how we think like that.
Yeah, for sure, dude. But no, going back to you anyway, Alan. So what was it like, going back to sort of like the start of your military career? What do you think it was about the Marine Corps that made you think, like, I want to be a Marine? Because there's so many things you can do in the military. Why did you think Marine Corps?
part of it was my oldest brother was a Marine, and he had joined during the, I guess, prime time to join. He had joined early 2000s after 9/11 happened. And so that was always in the back of my head, just to join the Marine Corps. I think the reason that I did it, well, the reason I picked the Marine Corps is because I wanted to do the hardest branch, and the Marine Corps is considered the most difficult branch, strictest, highest standards, physically the most demanding, especially initial training. And so I didn't want to do anything less than that. Never in my mind did I entertain joining the Army or the Air Force or the Coast Guard or the Navy. Even if I was denied from the Marine Corps, I wouldn't have gone and tried anywhere else.
Really?
So
that's how diehard you were.
It was so much more about just joining the military. It was a lot more about joining the Marine Corps. And I think that I was really focused on the initial training of it. A boot camp, the lore behind Marine Corps boot camp. I just wanted to try that. And honestly, at the time, I was a loner in my life, really, because I had finished football, and my friends that I still hung out with were getting into a lot of trouble, really, really bad trouble, and they eventually did. So we would go around. They, for no particular reason, they just like to pick fights. They like to pretend like they were in a gang and go fight people. And so I actually got involved in one fight where we got jumped by tons of people. We got our ass kicked because I was with them. We were just driving around. They were looking for trouble. One of them pulled up, jumped out, started talking shit. We got in the vehicle and eventually left. They followed us, anyways, to a Wendy's parking lot. Jumped out. We got jumped. So it was like after that, I'm like, damn, man, like my nose, I'm pretty sure was broken. And I'm just like, for what? Like I didn't want to get in that fight, And so they were doing that like every weekend, trying to go out and fight people. They got into one fight where they had weapons, and they would literally drive around. They'd say, "Let's go in. Hey, so and so's having a party over here. Let's go fight them." And I was just like, "No, I don't want to do that. Like I'm tired of rolling around with you guys and doing this." And I left that night. Well, anyways, they got into a fight, and they were using weapons, and they did some serious damage. They ended up going. They were at the time 18, so could have gone to. There wasn't juvenile hall, but they got time in jail because they seriously hurt these guys. One of the guys had a butterfly knife, so he got charged with whatever that was. Another guy had a bat, beat some dude's head in. So these guys are both in jail. Two of my good friends that I hung out with. And I'm when I heard that happen, I'm like, shit, man, I could have been there with them, like fighting for no reason. Another guy who was also in the crew, he was into racing. So every time we'd be in his car, he'd be flying 90 miles an hour around the road. And I hated driving with him, but I felt like a pussy by saying, like, I don't want to drive this fast, slow down. Anyways, he was going around a blind turn. An old lady was pulling out of a parking lot, and he T-boned her and killed her. So he got charged with vehicular manslaughter. So it's like all these dudes that I'm hanging out with are just getting in serious trouble. And so I wasn't hanging out with anyone at the time. I had one friend that I still spent time with. And I was working a bunch. I was working long 10-hour days, 5 days a week. And so I was just committed to working.
What were you doing for work?
I was part of a painting crew. So we would paint buildings. It was a commercial thing. So we would paint buildings, and it would take months to paint one building. We'd have to pressure wash segments of it and then let it dry, mask it, paint it, roll it, hand paintbrush this stuff, do the eaves. So it would just take a long time. So we always had projects to do. When I wasn't doing that, I was part of a landscaping crew. So we'd mow lawns for the school district, edge, pull weeds and stuff like that. So I was doing that all day. And this was the time when I would love to run. And I would go, the thing about running long distance is it takes a long time. So it's not something that you can like casually do. If you want to go on a 10, 12, 15 mile run, you got to have hours to do it. It's not like I'm going to go get in a quick 45-minute pump sesh, So I was still doing this, and I would, I didn't like running in the evening times because it was usually so hot. But also I would run around the roads, and it was just packed full of people. And so I'd be turning my left and right, just trying to cross roads and get around. And I hated dodging cars. So I had to be to work at 7 a.m. And so I would get up, sometimes it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I'd go on these couple-mile runs.
It's insane.
Because it was cool out, and there were no cars on the road. So I could just run wherever I wanted. So I was running in the morning, going to work, being exhausted, get home, go to sleep. And so that was like my life for quite a while. And I just going to school, when I started going to school again in college, I was so bored of it. I was just like, I don't care about this. I don't know what I'm doing. You had to declare a what is it called? What you were trying to get your degree in. You had to pick something. You know,
Okay.
getting
Oh
my
yeah,
degree in
sure.
this.
Yeah.
And mine would always bounce around, each semester because I didn't know. I would just pick
Yeah.
something. Oh, I don't know, criminal justice, I guess. History, because I kind of like history. So,
But nothing was really calling to you.
Right. And I, at the time, one thing I did enjoy doing as a hobby and just as a necessity, I like to cook and I like to bake stuff. So I would, I thought maybe I'll do culinary school. And so I signed up for a culinary school. I got my dad's help because there was tuition. He had to kind of help, like, be my co-signer in a way for this small loan. So I'm going to culinary school. I go to culinary school on the first day, and I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't want to be in a kitchen, my whole life. And during this whole time in the back of my head was thinking about joining the Marine Corps. I really wanted to do it, but I kept telling myself, don't do it for this reason. You can do something else. You can do something else. I just kept putting it away. And maybe something else will catch on, but nothing else was catching on. And so anyways, that first day of culinary school, I said, I'm joining the Marine Corps. I'm going to do it now. I need to do it now so that I can do it, and then it can be out of my head. Maybe I'll stay in. Maybe I'll just do 4 years, and I can move on. I can go to culinary school and when I'm 50. I don't need to do it right now. So I told my dad, just a total 180, because I'd never mentioned it before. I just said, Dad, I want to join the Marine Corps. And he was really proud of that. So I went and joined the Marine Corps, and that was kind of the whole, I was just so focused on, one, the challenge, because nothing else was really challenging me at all. The direction, because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was attracted to the idea of being told what to do, because in college, I could go to class or not go to class. I could fail a class and nobody cares. I'm not giving that report card to my football coach. I'm not giving my college report card to my parents. Nobody cares. I could change my degree, whatever it is. There was just no incentive to doing anything. But with the Marine Corps, I was attracted to the idea of having someone else tell me what to do and just have everything taken care of. Just do what you're told. Yeah. We'll take care of your paycheck, your boarding, your food, your everyday activities. You're just going to be told what to do. And I was like, I want to do that. And so that's one reason why I joined the Marine Corps. But the Marine Corps was my pick from the start. I never had any intention of doing any other. And as a quick aside, I said that one friend that I used to hang out with at the time, he also wanted to join the Marine Corps. And so he had mentioned to me, hey, let's join the buddy system. The buddy system is where you can sign in with your buddy. So you and I sign in together on the buddy system. It ensures that we go to boot camp together and that we are in the same platoon together in boot camp. After that, you might split based on where the Marine Corps needs you or what your job is. But you'll go to boot camp the same day. You'll be in the same platoon. So you kind of get to be with your buddy.
That's so good.
Yeah,
I don't think we have anything like that in the British military, British Army, or anything like that. But that just makes so much sense, because when you are 18, you want to be with your mate, don't you? You want to be with your mates, Yep. So he had asked me, before, hey, let's do the Marine Corps, and I didn't think he was serious about it, but he was saying, I want to join the Marine Corps. I didn't want to say yes or make a decision until I was totally on board. I wasn't going to flirt around with the idea. I was just like, it's a yes or a no. And at the time it was a no. But then I thought, yeah, let's do this. I want to do it. So we had joined in the buddy program. Well, the thing is, he's a big, tall, kind of oafy dude. And they have height and weight standards. So you can't be overweight. He was overweight. And so he had to lose some weight. He couldn't do a pull-up. He couldn't do one pull-up, and the minimum requirement's 3. Just to go into boot camp, you have to do 3 pull-ups that you have to do at the recruiter's station when you sign up. So he couldn't do the pull-ups, and he was too heavy. So I couldn't go in because he wasn't ready to go in. So he had done. I had worked out with him, taken him on workouts. I was trying to push him to get him to lose weight, trying to get his strength up. I knew that if he just lost weight, he'd be able to do the pull-ups if we just kept doing push-ups.
And he would kind of half-ass do the workouts with me. But I was doing it like it was my job, like I was being paid to do it. And
big difference.
Yes. He started to fall off, just not try very hard during the workouts. He would stop the workouts early. There were times when he was a no-show. We would say, like, okay, every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. we'll be at the local track. And I would wait for him. He wouldn't show up. I'd do my workout. Next time I saw him, like, where were you, dude? And he's like, oh, I slept in. So he started becoming a no-show. Right. At the time, he fell in love with this girl. Anyways, that was taking up a lot of his time. Like, he would stay the night at her house. She had an apartment or whatever. And he would stay the night at her house and not go to the workout in the morning. And
he was just thinking of her more than he was the Marine Corps, basically.
Yes.
It was like one of those things. Like,
and so my recruiter would call us, and he would say, hey, Thrall, we got a date next month. Can you leave? And I'd be like, I'm ready to go. We got to see if my friend is. And he was never ready. So this got postponed like months and months and months and months, almost a full year. And then my buddy calls me, and he goes, I'm out. And I said, out of what? He said, I'm not joining the Marine Corps. I'm staying here. And the reason was he fell in love with this girl, and he didn't want to leave her. And he didn't want to leave her to boot camp, and he didn't want to leave because he might get shipped somewhere. He might deploy. So he didn't want to leave her. He was that madly in love with her. And so I was like, all right, dude. I don't remember exactly what I said to him, but I told the instructor or the recruiter, I said, hey, I'm ready to go. I've been ready. So he got another date, the next date, and this was our ship out date. So I left without him. And I didn't think that he could, because the recruiters tell you cannot opt out of this. Once you sign up in what's called a delayed entry program, you cannot get out. Mm-hmm. You can't get out once you step once you swear in. So right before you leave, you have to go do the swear in, raise your right hand, recite this whole thing, and say that you swear in. You're now property of the United States government. You can't get out. He hadn't done that yet, so he was able to get out. So that was the story of joining the Marine Corps and getting into it, and the inspiration and a little bit of the lead up to it.
Yeah, that's so cool. So what were your initial thoughts of the Marine Corps? So you've gone off, you've joined. So what did you think?
I was really prepared for boot camp. I was so motivated. Physically, I was above where I needed to be, which honestly you need to be when you go into this, not just the Marine Corps, it's any military. Yeah. If you are physically above where you need to be, obviously you're going to have an easier time with all the physical stuff. You're still going to get broken down because they will just meet you where you're at. If you don't it doesn't take very much to break you down, so what? You're just going to get broken down earlier. I'm still going to get broke down, but it's going to take a lot longer. And but the thing is, you have to learn so much stuff in boot camp. You have to learn courtesies. You have to learn etiquette. You have to learn this and that. And you're constantly drilled with questions. You have to learn rank. You have to learn Marine Corps history. You have to learn all the things about the military. And if you try to learn that on the fly in boot camp, you are never going to remember it. None of it's going to be retained. So especially if you're not in good shape, because you're just going to be dead tired all the time. And you're not going to be able to pay attention to anything. You're not going to be able to absorb anything. So I studied all my knowledge. I was physically fit. I was ready to just ask any question. I can just spit it out really quick. And I was motivated to do better than my brother did. Also, my brother my brother actually was company honorman. So of the entire company that went into boot camp, he tied with another recruit. There was between two recruits. It's supposed to be one, but they gave it to this recruit and my brother. So he was the best, tied for number one. And I thought, I want to do that. And I want to actually get number one. And so I wanted to beat him there. Another thing was, when you first get there, you have to do what's called an initial strength test, just to see where you're at. And you have to do a 1.5 mile run. And he did it in like 8 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe 8 minutes, 29 seconds, a mile and a half. And I wanted to beat that. So I went in and I beat his time. And then I tried so hard in boot camp. I did really well. I ended up getting company honorman. So I beat him out on that too, because he had tied with another recruit.
So is that friendly competition?
Yeah, absolutely. So
did you like ring him up straight away and tell him, and he's like, oh?
Well, he was at graduation. And I don't think he didn't know going into it, because you don't I can't text him in boot camp or call him.
Sure, yeah.
So it's once you get into boot camp, they just are told where to go in the viewing section, and then he sees us marching out. So it was cool to see like me up front with the guide on, and you have a rank on your side, and I was promoted, so you could see my higher rank. So he had to know, like, oh damn, he got company honorman. So it was
That's
cool.
awesome,
but I'll be honest, I was so focused on boot camp, so prepared for boot camp, that I didn't even think once about after boot camp. And I won't get too into it, but it was just after boot camp was done, I was kind of tired of being that, like in that leadership position, being company honorman, being like, the golden boy. I just wanted to kind of blend in with Gen Pop after that. And I kind of had a hard time with that once I got out of boot camp, because you finish boot camp at the top. Now you're expected to be this top person. And I didn't really want to be. I didn't like, when you were the top person, you're in charge of everyone else. So if everyone else messes up, it's your fault. You have to do this. You have to do that.
A lot of
Not only do you have to
responsibility.
yeah, exactly. You have to do your job, but you have to take accountability for other people who mess up, or make sure they're doing that. And I was tired of doing that. I was like, I just want to do what I want, what I need to do. Yes, exactly. And so it made for first year of Marine Corps, like getting out of that, pretty slow. Like I was like, man, I don't know. I'm not as crazy about this as I was, for boot camp. I was way more hyped for boot camp than about doing the Marine Corps. And I literally, it sounds ridiculous, but after boot camp, you get some leave. You get like 1 week where you go home before you go to more training. And when I went back home, it was the hardest thing ever to realize, okay, after these 7 days, I got to go back to the Marine Corps. And I just it hit me to think like, I got to go back. Of course you got to go back. You have it for 4 years, but it was just like, I couldn't believe, I thought it was just boot camp and I was done. Like that's how set I was, I didn't actually think that, but that was like just all that I was mentally prepared for.
You were
I was
tunnel
just thinking,
visioned.
I don't know what else I have to do 3.5 more years of this. I can't believe this. So anyways, that was boot camp.
So what was it like when you did go back? So what did you spend your other 3.5 years doing?
Yeah. So once you're done, once I was done with boot camp, you go to more training. It's called School of Infantry, where you learn infantry stuff. And then before that, you actually go into your unit. So wherever the Marine Corps is going to take you. And you would go based off the Marine Corps needs. You would also go based off your occupation. So not everyone in the Marine Corps is a rifleman. Some people, there's Marine Corps cooks. There's Marine Corps admin who deal with computer stuff and making sure all Marines get paid.
That sounds super boring, man.
Yes, it is 100%. And a lot of people get stuck into that. So when I went in, I told them I want to do infantry, and that's it. But a lot of times it's just Marine Corps. A recruiter might need 10 slots in Marine Corps admin, and so what they tell the recruit is, someone coming in that doesn't know any different, they'll say, hey, we're gonna do this thing, they'll give you the number, it's 0421, whatever, they'll just say some number, it's 0421 occupation, man, my buddy was this, he had this MOS, he went to Germany, and then he went to Thailand, and he went over here, we was in Hong Kong, you get to travel the world and do all this, and they're just like, they don't know any different, they're like, okay, and they get stuck admin working a desk job. It's the truth, like, people have to do that. The infantry is a smaller kind of category within the Marine Corps. But anyways, I went into the Marine Corps as infantry, 0311 rifleman. And when I was in the Marine Corps, when I was in boot camp, I was picked for a special duty called Presidential Support Duty. And I had heard about this from my brother, because my brother also was picked when he was in boot camp. He was disqualified. After he was picked, they have to go through a series of questions and eval, and he was disqualified because he had a DUI before he came in the Marine Corps.
Really?
So he was disqualified. So he got bumped out. So I had heard about this, and here I am in boot camp getting picked for the same thing. What they do is they pick everyone who's 0311. They'll pick you. From there, it's just do you have a certain ASVAB score, which is a test you have to take before joining the military to show if you're smart or not. So you have a certain ASVAB score. It's good. part of that is something called a GT score, which is a little more specific testing. You have to have a certain GT score. If you don't have those, you're out. I made it past that. And at that point, they go through things like criminal history. No, like my background was clean, so I moved on from there. And in boot camp, it's called being voluntold. It's not really a volunteer thing. They say you have an option, but you don't really. You have to just kind of do what you're told. And so anyways, I'm just kind of being pushed along this, like not really understanding where I'm going to go from here. But I just keep being pushed and pushed and pushed. You go through lie detector tests. You go onto a board, which is where there's a bunch of higher ups that grill you with questions to kind of test your bearing, to get in your head about admitting stuff, to tell you, like, if you lie, you're going to jail, you're going to prison if you lie on one thing. And I mean, as a naive, like 19-year-old recruit that just doesn't want to talk back, you believe it, you know.
It's heavy.
And you sit on this board and they ask you a bunch of questions. I remember one particular one. I don't remember all the questions that were asked, but you first talk to a lie detector test with a civilian, so it's a much more laid back. And they ask you basic questions, and they get some questions about your childhood, about your family. For example, if you're going to presidential support duty, and you have family who are not U.S. citizens, you're probably gonna have a really hard time getting in. If you have any debt, you have a hard time getting in. If you have ancestors, like one generation above who are immigrants, you're gonna have a harder time. You're much easier to track and check your background. If everyone was born in the United States, if everyone lives in the United States, if you have no debt, there's no reason to like take you hostage or bribe you. It's much easier to get through this program. So anyways, you go through these series of questions, and I remember going on this board with he was some higher ranking lieutenant colonel maybe, which is extremely intimidating when you're a recruit. And there's some drill instructors there just staring at you. There's a first sergeant, and I remember they ask a bunch of questions. They're not all this ridiculous, but I just remember one of the questions. The first sergeant goes, he says, no, the lieutenant colonel says, "What's something you hide from your parents?" And I didn't understand what he was saying. And he said, what's something you've done that you don't want to tell your parents? And I'm thinking in my head, like, honestly, there's nothing really. And he says, "Have you ever smoked weed?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Do you want your parents to know about that?" And I said, "They do, sir." And like that was it, And then the first sergeant goes, "Oh yeah?" He goes, "You ever watch porn?" I'm like, I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Bet you don't want your mama knowing that." And I was like, "Guess not," And I'm thinking in my head, like, did I just get disqualified, Yeah,
man.
And he goes, "What kind of porn you like watching, recruit?" And I was like, I've seen it a couple times. I don't like watch it, And I said, "A guy, girl?" I don't know. I don't know what to say. And they left it after that. But yeah, so you go through this board and these questions. You have to go through this process that is, it's what's called Yankee White security clearance, which allows you to carry a weapon around the president. So it was decided that I was going to do this. And I did try to opt out one time. I didn't try very hard, but I tried one time because I thought, as I went back to the barracks and back into boot camp, I thought to myself, man, I don't know if I want to do this presidential security thing. I want to do what my brother did. He went to Iraq twice. And I said, I don't know if I would have gone to Iraq, but it definitely would have gone to Afghanistan. And I said, I want to do infantry stuff. Like, I don't know if I want to go through this career and not go to combat, to be an infantry Marine and not go to combat. And so I went to my drill instructor. You don't go to your drill instructor unless there's something seriously wrong. But I went to my drill instructor whenever, I had time. And he immediately, they just want to shut you down. Like, what do you want? And I'm just, it's so hard to talk to them, Right. And I said, I told him this recruit does not want to do the presidential support duty. And he looks at me and he goes, "Yes, you do." And I was just like, "Aye, sir, like, I'm okay. I guess so." And he said, he shows me, he goes, he says, you know, much more sternly, but he says, I have been to combat. I have seen shit you don't want to see. And he said, I wish that I got this opportunity and I did this. I wish that I did this presidential support stuff. So you are going to do it. I know better than you. And I was like, okay. And he said, besides, when you're done with that, if you want to go shoot guns and you want to go overseas, then you can. You'll just go to the fleet right after that. And so it was convincing enough, and I just shut my mouth. I said, okay. So it was that was that. I'm going to do this presidential support thing. So after that, I go to School of Infantry, and then I go to Washington, D.C. You wait until your security clearance clears, and then you get to go to a few different spots. I went to Camp David, which is the...
Sorry to interrupt, Alan. So
I was going to end it there because I've been talking for like 20 minutes about this damn clearance. But that was pretty much it.
Really interesting.
That was it. So I went to Camp David, which is a presidential retreat. So that was what I did for the initial part of the Marine Corps.
Awesome, man.
But to kind of reel it back to, you had mentioned like, so what now after boot camp, what did you do? To kind of reel it back into fitness and lifting weights. Once you go to School of Infantry, you get a little bit more freedom. So it is more like a job. You get off at 5 p.m., sometimes 6 p.m., and you can go do your own thing. You get Saturdays and Sundays off. That's not always. A lot of times it's like, we're going to do a night operation, so we're going to stay out in the field, or you guys were messing up. You did this, so you're going to stay longer, and you're going to clean weapons until 9 p.m. or something like that. So you don't always get time off, but you get a little more freedom. A lot of the guys in SOI, and this is like universal, this is not just my experience, any Marine you would talk to, I'm sure any military member, when you give an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid some freedom, and they don't have, necessarily a job to worry about, they don't have to worry about bills, they don't have to worry about paying rent, they just get this paycheck every month or every couple weeks, whatever it was. All they want to do is go spend that money. Like, man, I just got a $1,500 check. I got no bills. I'm just going to spend this money.
Yeah.
And so they go drinking. They go get tattoos. They go buy like a Ford Mustang they can't afford. They go to the strip club. I've seen guys blow an entire paycheck at a strip club.
I bet.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so this was like the common thing to do, especially in Southern California. There's just a lot to do outside of base. And so when a lot of the guys were doing this kind of stuff, I was not about that. I started going to the gym again. And this is when I fell in love with lifting weights again for the sake of lifting weights. I just really enjoyed it more than doing it just for football. And so I was obsessed with lifting weights. I was still obsessed with training and running. I really liked the physical aspect of the military, more so than like the brotherhood. Not to say I didn't enjoy that, but I just wasn't like going out and partying very much. Did it a few times, never really liked it. And I also was stingy with my money. I always had been. Even when I was a kid, I would do these chores for this neighbor. I would do yard work for my neighbor when I was a kid. And he would give me $20. I'd work 4 hours and he'd give me $20. And I would just like put that in my piggy bank and I'd be like, I'm never spending this. I just love like having the money,
Hoarder. Yeah.
And so I was like that in the military. Like every time I got a paycheck, I was just like, I don't want to spend this. I want to keep it. I didn't know what for, but I was just, I'm going to keep this. I don't want to spend money. I'd have no bills, but to go out and like, buy an expensive meal, I was just like, $60 on a meal. I don't want to do that. So anyways, I just enjoyed getting that paycheck, keeping to myself and lifting weights. Yeah. And so that's where to take a break here. That's where the obsession for lifting weights and realizing eventually that I want to do this for a living and I want to actually use this money for something. I'm going to start a gym. That's where that kind of originated.
So so you started actually taking it seriously, thinking about opening a gym at that time.
Yeah, it was probably 2 years into the Marine Corps. It wasn't necessarily that SOI, School of Infantry time.
Right.
But once I had finished School of Infantry, I went to Virginia, and I went to basic security guard school, and then you go to Washington, D.C., and you go to guard school. So it's just a bunch of schooling. From there, I just would stand post. So you're just basically a security guard. For hours and hours and hours. And now you just do shift work as a security guard. And you wait until your clearance goes through, and then you can move on to destination. And from there I went to Camp David. And during this whole time, I'm just obsessed. The Marine Corps is my job. After that, lifting weights, eating, that was just my obsession. And that's all I wanted to do. Once I got to Camp David, I actually got into competing, and I did my first strongman competition, and it was just like a game over from there. I was just hooked on it. And I would say after 2 years in the Marine Corps, I started to realize that I don't really like being told what to do. I went into the Marine Corps because I wanted to be told what to do. I've soon realized I think I know the man I want to be, how I want to carry myself, what I want to do with my time, what I want to do with my money, what I want to do with my life. I'm done being told what to do. I want to do my own thing. And so that's when I decided that I was going to start a gym. So I had a couple years to really dream about it and continue like saving up for it and try to get some knowledge and experience that I could before I knew in 2 years I'm going to get out of the Marine Corps and I'm going to start my own gym. So that's where it started.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How like sometimes in life, like, you know, you said obviously you went into the Marine Corps because you thought you wanted to be told what to do, and basically what you got out of that was that you didn't want to be told what to do. It's funny how like things like that in life happen. You know, you come full circle with that, and that's just. I guess that's just life. That's like life's lessons, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions. You know, you said that you had to what was it? Reach the criteria. What did you call it? Was it like you said it was like white Yankee or what that thing that you had to carry a firearm?
White.
Yankee white.
Yankee
sorry,
white
yeah.
security clearance.
So, what's the criteria for that? Like, what do what do they look into? So, I guess were there other Marines like yourself that could potentially then not be able to carry a firearm around the president because of certain reasons?
Yeah, they get dropped off all the way through the whole process because I start the process in boot camp. The process is still going on in School of Infantry, Basic Security Guard School, or Guard Academy. And then when I'm standing post, you stay in Washington, D.C. guarding this base until you get the go-ahead. They say, hey, Thrall, your clearance went through. You're going here. So you get orders. There are people who stay there for years. Not years, but maybe a full year they'll stay at that academy. So they've been in 2 years in the Marine Corps waiting for this clearance to go. Boom, your clearance was denied. A waste of 2 years, you know. So they go out to the fleet of the Marine Corps. So it's,
and how strict is that? Like what's the sort of thing that could get somebody like denied clearance?
So initially, the things right off the bat, like I mentioned, you have to have a certain GT score just that you have some sort of intelligence.
Yeah.
If you have any debt or if you have a lot of debt, that can be used as a bribe or something like that. So debt will disqualify you. Criminal history.
Yeah, sure.
They actually go so far they go to your hometown and they talk to teachers. Right. They talk to childhood friends. So they talk to a couple of my teachers and friends.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And I think that once they realize this person's okay, then they'll kind of give you the go ahead. If you do anything,
because you were pretty squeaky clean, you were like you were all right.
You need a good clearance. That's the main thing. You just need a squeaky background that's easy to go through. Again, if they have to do a bunch of digging and they're like, his dad now lives, internationally, lives in Europe. We can't get a hold of him. Like that could be a reason for we're going to cut it there. There's a number of
your elementary teacher tells you that you like mutilated a squirrel once or something like.
Yes, yeah. So exactly. And they do. I think talking to enough people, they will just kind of, I guess, use their best judgment to say that he's okay. They actually talked to one of my friends. Yeah. They talk to. There's a lot of boots on the ground. It's not just like okay, fill out this paperwork and we'll take a look at it and you're good. But they do just have to figure out, is this person, a liability or a potential danger, But they actually talked to one of my friends named Greg, who is, I still talk to him this day. He will talk your ear off, and I like hanging out with him because of that. Like you don't have to talk much. He just tells stories and stories and stories. He just loves talking. If you're out in public, it'll be like, where's Greg? He's off talking to some random. Anyways, when I had found out, I don't remember how I found out, but they went to Greg's house, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, they're gonna run like within 30 minutes. They're gonna be like, all right, we have enough. Thank you. Like Greg's gonna talk their ear off. Not that he was gonna say anything bad, but I'm just like, they're gonna hate their job listening to this guy for however long. But anyways, yeah, that's the whole process. And beyond that, I don't know exactly what they're looking for. But decent GT score. You have to have a certain MOS. You have to have things like a first class PFT, which means just top of your physical fitness and stuff like that.
I guess just like, mental stability, no signs of like volatility or anything like that. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you're going to be allowed around, the President of the United States of America with a firearm, you expect there to be pretty stringent tests that you really like. I mean, it makes sense, Yeah,
so they do all that they can. So they look at your record. You do go through lie detector tests, which aren't completely accurate, but I think they're definitely accurate for a recruit who's very, very nervous, But anyways, that's how they would go through the process.
So I'm pretty sure I saw a picture before. You did get to meet Obama, didn't you, when you were a Marine?
Yeah, a bunch of times. Yeah, so I was during the Obama administration. Yeah. And when you're there, so the Camp David is a presidential retreat. So it can be used just as his vacation area. It's just outside of D.C., just a helicopter flight away. And so he would go there, he would land, and he could just use it as like time off, which he mainly did. But it's also a place, the First Lady, so Michelle Obama, could go up there, and she's treated the same. They might bring friends, literally just like high school friends or someone important, other world leaders that they would bring there and kind of entertain them. So it's just like a retreat hotel type idea that just for the president. And he would go there often. He didn't, but when he was there, we provide security. We are not there to hang out and fraternize and shoot the breeze with the president. So there were times when I got to meet him formally, and then a couple times where I got to meet him just informally, running into him. He, in fact, one time he came into the gym while I was lifting. And my lifting session was interrupted by the President of the United States, and I was pissed. I was squatting, and I knew he was there. The rule is if he goes into your area, so if there's a basketball court. If you're there playing basketball, and he shows up, you got to leave. You can't be like, hey, you want to play a game, and like talk to him. Like, you have to get out of the way. If he was to stop, and say, hey, Marine, come play basketball with me. Sure, you can, but you can't. Like, you're supposed to leave this space open to him, and the gym is included too. I was there early in the morning because I knew he was there on Camp David, and I thought I want to get my workout in early so that he doesn't interrupt it. And so I was doing my workout with my roommate at the time. We were doing squats, and I just did like my first working set, and he comes walking in, and it was so wild to see him. Because he had just woken up. He didn't have any makeup on. His hair was like kind of matted. And
I didn't know he wore makeup.
Not done. When he's doing, I think he's got to have some like blush or something on. Because when looking at him, I'm serious, or some foundation. Because looking at him, he looked old when he came in. Like wrinkles, freckles. Maybe it was just because I was so close to him. But I've met him before officially, like in formation. He comes and like shakes your hand, and he looked like he normally looks. But just seeing him out of bed, maybe he just had sleep in his eyes. I don't know. He's wearing like a wrinkled gray Nike shirt and basketball shorts, and he comes in, and I turn around and I see him, and in my head I'm like, damn it, the president's here. So I'm like, I gotta finish up, and you have to casually act like you're leaving. So I grab my stuff, I put my weights away, and I'm walking out, and he stops us as we're walking. I said, whatever, good morning, Mr. President, or something like that. And he says, you Marines aren't leaving because of me, are you? No, of course not. We're finished. And I was hoping he was going to say, please stay, just so I could finish working out. Not even because he was there, but he was just like, oh, okay, well, that's good to hear. And we walked, we had to leave. But yeah, so you would run into him sometimes like that.
Did you not think of saying like, we were like leaving because of you? Or is that like frowned upon? You're not allowed to say that?
We're told don't ask permission or don't, like get out of there.
Right.
So, but honestly, if he was pushing like, hey, stay, hey, maybe you could take a look at my squat form, that would have been tight. But if he was to say something like that then yes, I would be like, yeah, can you give me a spot? I'm going 315 on bench. So So it was definitely like you just have to like, no, it's not your fault, So we had to leave, but I'm like, man, I didn't get my workout in. So there'd be times when you run into them like that. But yeah, it's not a place where you can just like hang out, with the president.
So
There's a bar on base where a lot of the Marines will go and drink. Apparently, I was not there during the Bush administration, but apparently he would go there unannounced and tell the Marines to stay and drink with the Marines, which is cool. But
yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
So was that sort of like the extent of your conversation with Barack Obama, just at that time in the gym? Did you never really have more of a conversation with him than that?
No, that was it. The other time was just formalities, like,
yeah.
Hey, Marine, how are you? Where are you from? Just stuff like that. Never.
Did you come across like a nice guy, though, like in the flesh?
Yes. So I will say, no, I'm not like, I don't want to trash talk the dude, but he, when I first met him, when he landed on the plane or on the helicopter and he came out, I'll say that he looked very tired.
Right.
And he was definitely like dropping his pack, like, I'm sure I couldn't imagine being the president of the United States, but he looked very tired. He gave me a handshake, and it was the weakest handshake I've ever felt. I was like, come on.
Really?
I was like, I get to shake hands with this dude's giving handshakes to like thousands of people, but I'm like, this is my one handshake with the president. And it was just he's just a dead fish. Put his hand out, like limp like that. And when I went to grab, I didn't want to like look at his hand. I was looking at him, and I'm giving him eye contact, and I like it's one of those handshakes where you just grab his fingers pretty much.
That's the worst,
what a
man.
shitty handshake. And,
that's the worst.
But it was just this like cold hand, and he just like put a limp wrist and lift hand out. And I'm just like, man, that was the weakest handshake I've ever felt. Like the president.
This is like the leader of the Western world,
yes.
literally
handshake.
They're literally the Western world. Like, I mean, that's pretty much how. I mean, I think if you're being honest, as like a British adult, we even see that. I mean, really, it's like if you're the president of the United States, it's like, yeah, you're the leader of the Western world. So in a way, you're almost like unofficially, almost like my leader as well. Because let's face it, if we went into like a freaking massive global war, we'd be your allies, and you're the top dog in the West. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. So,
it was a letdown, but. That was it. Other than that, I've never talked to him beyond that.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's pretty interesting anyway, man, and some pretty funny stories as well. So by this point, did you just do your 4 years in the Marine Corps and then you got out?
Yes. So the way, there's more to it, I guess. It wasn't just Camp David.
Right.
So when you're in presidential support duty, you have to bump up from a 4-year contract to a 5-year contract. Most Marines, almost all Marines, will do a 4-year contract. You bump up to a 5-year contract so that after you've done 3 years with the presidential support duty, you now go to the fleet. So you go to the actual Marine Corps, and you do that for 2 years. This was what my drill instructor was talking about when he said, hey, when you're done with it, you're going to go to the fleet and you'll deploy. So don't worry about it right now. Well, at this point, I am all in, like peak, like pinnacle bulk body weight, 255 pounds, lifting, obsessed with lifting at Camp David. I went to a school called the Corporals Course. And while I was in there were other corporals, and one of the corporals was the leader or the guide of what's called the body bearer section, the body bearer platoon. They are a bunch of big, jacked, most on steroids, huge Marines who lift weights, eat, and they perform funerals. So they carry caskets at Arlington Cemetery for fallen Marines. He was a leader of that platoon. And he approached me while we were in corporals course. It's corporals from all over, different units. And he approached me and he said, hey, I can tell you're a big dude. I know you like lifting weights. Do you think you could pass a strength test? And I asked him what the strength test was. I knew what the body bears were at this time, but he asked me what the strength test was. I said yes. And he said, all right, meet me down at lunch down in the gym, and we'll go, just take your blouse off. We'll go what's called boots and utes, so just your outfit with your boots. You'll take a strength test, and we'll go from there. So I went and did it. I passed the strength test, and he said, And then at that point, he was like, I want you to come be a body bear. I want you to go through training to be a body bear because we need people. So it was my command approved it. And so instead of going to the fleet where Marines deploy, I went to the body bear section. And so I was going to do that for my final 2 years. It only ended up being 4 years. And the reason was, when I in boot camp or whenever it was, you have to sign a piece of paper that says I am extending my contract from 4 years to 5 years. So I signed there. I got a notification. I don't remember how. I don't remember who. It was a higher up had told us, any Marines who have done presidential support duty at this time, who went to boot camp at this time, come to my office or whatever, come to formation. I was in that category, and I said, what is this all about? So I went there, and they said, apparently the paperwork that you signed when you extended your contract from 4 years to 5 years was the incorrect paperwork. They used the wrong article, wrong piece of paper. So it's null. It doesn't mean anything. It's void. So my contract dropped back down to 4 years, which was great for me. I was stoked because I was like, I want to open my own gym. So now I don't have to wait 2 more years. It's only 1 year. And so I got out at 4 years. But that was the story about, I finished my contract doing body bear duty. So I went to training as a body bear, which was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Really?
It was far more difficult than boot camp. Miserable time. Once I passed that training to be a body bear, then I would just do funerals every day.
What sort of training did you have to do for that?
So there's actually recently, just because YouTube is so popular, there's been a few documentaries about the body bears. If you are interested, or if anyone's listening is interested, you would just go on YouTube and put Marine Corps body bears. Body, B-O-D-Y, bears, B-E-A-R-E-R-S. And there's documentaries. You can see some of the training. But the training is, so you would go down into the parking garage. So there's this parking garage. You go down to the very bottom. It's just dingy, hardly any light. We just have this dim yellow light. And down there, you would do a whole bunch of hazing, essentially. It's good training, but it's just getting you totally broke off with weights. In boot camp, you're getting broke off by doing push-ups, pull-ups, down-ups, sit-ups, crunches, drop down to the dirt, do jumping jacks, all this bodyweight stuff. This is getting broke off with weights. So we would do curls until your arms were going to explode, until you couldn't hold on to the bar anymore, until you dropped the bar. We would do plate stuff, like hold a 45-pound plate out for endless amount of time. And the actual training of it was learning how to, we had these shit cans. So they were metal trash cans with a metal top, just like the one that, what is it, Oscar the Grouch, who lives in a trash can. Oh, right. It's like a metal trash can. And they put 45-pound plates in that. And you and someone next to you would carry that shit can with one hand. So you grab the handle, you both pick it up, you hold it at shoulder height, and the other hand just kind of rests on your body, and you march like that. That's how you carry a casket. So you carry a casket, one hand here, you carry it high like this, you look ahead, and you carry the casket at head height. So you and a partner who is also in training with you carry this casket, and you walk down this parking lot and back, down this parking lot and back. During that time, you have to maintain total bearing, straight face. You can't grimace, you can't moan, you can't make any noise. You keep your mouth shut. You breathe through your nose, because that's how you conduct funerals. You carry these caskets. Some of the caskets are extremely heavy. Some are extremely far that you have to carry it. You have to carry it, making it look effortless. Straight face, breathe through your nose, not your mouth, straight ahead. So you have to train like that. Even when you're doing 100 curls, 5 sets of 20 curls, straight face.
Was that the thing that you found the hardest, was actually just trying to keep the straight face and then maintain that etiquette? Because I can imagine that, usually in the gym, you're used to working hard. Yeah, there's obviously no restrictions.
Grinding your teeth. Yeah. It was very difficult, but the overall training was the difficult part about it, because you go to failure all the time. It's not like RPE 7 and 8 and leave some in the tank. Hey, you had a hard day yesterday, just do it again. They try to mentally break you down.
RPE 10 every day.
Every day, all the time. So you carry these caskets. They had a big steel coffin, or steel casket, that you would carry with the other, if there were enough of you, carry with the other recruits that are in your training with you. And there is no structured time to say, hey, you have this much training. You're going to do this for 6 weeks and then you graduate. You're going to do this for 1 month and you graduate. It's just whenever they think you're ready. I was in it for a little over 3 months, which is pretty damn good. Some people go 6 months. It's just until they think you're ready. I was probably 4 months actually. And you carry this thing over and over and over. You do it every single day, every single morning. When you're done, you set it down, you run down and back. You run down and back just to get you flat out exhausted, and you still have to breathe through your nose, stand up, you can't hunch over. So it's total bearing, statuesque bearing while doing this training. I remember, when I first went in, there were other Marines who were in this training with me. So it sucks a little bit less because there's other Marines doing it with you. But eventually they started to graduate because they were there before me. So they are now body bearers training me. Some of the recruits didn't make it. So they were kicked out. They were dropped out. They go elsewhere. And at one point it was just me. So all these body bearers come down. It might be 10 at a time. And they just sit there and train me or, haze me. It's just me, just one person. They talk shit. They make you feel like you're trash. Some of the guys do it because they know it's part of the training. Some of them do it because they genuinely just think they're better than you and you're just a piece of shit.
Some pleasant.
Yes. There's a lot of ego in it, especially big jack dudes who are strong, like gym rats. There's going to be some ego in it. You're so weak.
How hard did you find that to deal with? Did it get under your skin? Did you know?
So that, it never offended me. Like I didn't feel like that I was less of a person. But it taught me a lot about how I don't want to be, how I don't want to treat people. And it definitely got me to realize I am so sick and tired of being told what to do. I just want to do my own thing. Usually Marines who go into that training will do it right out of boot camp. So you're selected in boot camp, you go there and you go to training. I was a little bit different case because I had already been in the Marine Corps for 3 years and I was already a corporal. So I was a higher rank than some of these guys, which didn't mean anything. And I didn't think anything of it, but they would think that I thought that I was better than them because I was a higher rank. I'm like, I've never said anything about it. I can't even talk. How do you think that? And so they would
insecurity on their
talk
part,
down to you. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I remember one time I was, just to show like how exhausted you get, after being slayed, down in this parking garage, you have to carry around a gallon of water. And when they were done with it, they said, my gallon of water was sitting in the corner. And you wear gloves when you do it. You wear these ceremonial gloves when you carry it, when you carry stuff. And so they said, all right, we're going back up. Thrall, go do this. Get your water. Go upstairs. Go do this, this, and this. And I run over, and I'm like trying to pick up my water. And it's like it's covered in butter or something, oil. I can't pick it up.
Really?
Like my hands can't close to pick up this gallon of water, which
just
8
gone.
pounds. My hands cannot like close to pick it up. And I'm like, fuck. Like I have to have this water.
Yeah.
And so I kick the cap off. I kick it over, and it pours out, and I just have to wait for it to pour out. And then I grab the empty gallon of plastic with two hands, like 2 club hands, and I like hold it like this, and I run upstairs with it. That's just how. Like you're just beyond exhaustion. Yes.
Yeah, just like beyond.
But I will say my forearms were bigger than they've ever been. When I graduated. Yeah. So if you think about it, like if this is off topic, but we don't usually train your grip to total failure. You might do something like a farmer's carry or a dumbbell row, but you're not picking that up. You might do 100 pounds. You're doing 100-pound dumbbell rows until you're fatigued and you're done, and you say that's failure. But really, you could pick up 80s, you could pick up 60s, so you're not totally to failure. So I think like legitimate failure to where you can't even pick up a 8-pound gallon of water. Maybe there's something to it, but
forearms are one of those muscles as well.
Training.
They can just take a lot of take a lot of stress. It's a bit like your calves, isn't it? Like
yes, yeah, absolutely. So there was that. I think that moving on, once I graduated, there were a lot of the guys. I will say, I just left I just have a bad taste in my mouth from the way that I was treated. Even after graduation, the way that I was treated or talked to didn't necessarily change that much. they didn't. Some of them I think had an issue with me because I was higher ranking. I never acted like it. I never thought anything about it, but they did.
Yeah.
I had small arms and big legs. They had enormous arms and skinny legs, most of them. So they would give me shit for why are you squatting? Why are you working on your legs? You're trying to get bigger legs and look even more disproportional. Your bench press is so weak. Your arms are so skinny, blah, blah, blah.
You need to be more like Johnny Bravo.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's how you should look. That's how some of the guys did look. And then when they found out that I wanted to open a gym when I got out, that was just like, that was just laughable to them. Like they couldn't believe it, And some of them, because I'm this dude I'm the smallest body bear in terms of not necessarily body weight and height, but in terms of like upper body. I'm the skinniest.
Right. Okay.
These dudes are all huge. So right there, like I'm like that knocks my credit down. My bench
said a lot
press
of them
is
were on
weak.
gear as well, and
they were. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, well, you were
almost
as
all
well,
of them. There were probably 2 that I know that weren't. But they don't care. Yeah, they.
But of course, they can be bigger than you.
I know. That's also something that I think they probably had in their head, like, this guy's doesn't take steroids because he's better than us. He's a corporal. He's better than us. Like
that is a real thing as well, isn't it?
I never said anything.
That is a thing. Yeah.
So I dealt with a lot of that, and I remember one body bearer had found out I was going to open a gym, and he just like grilling me in front of everyone, and I don't have an answer to what he's asking me, and that's just feeding it. Like he just getting a bigger head of it. He says, "You open a gym, what are you gonna teach people how to squat and that's it?" And I'm just like, just ignore it. What are you gonna call it, huh? He thinks he's asking me questions like to actually help me. What are you gonna call it? I'm like, I'm not sure. You need a name? Like, I don't know yet. How you plan on charging people? This dude, how are you gonna charge people? I'm like, what? How am I going to charge people? What do you like? I don't know. I'll figure it out. What are you going to do? Do you know anything about real estate? You ever worked you know anything about commercial real estate? You ever been just like grilling me in front of everyone, and everyone's just looking at me like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Me, and I'm just like, it was just like feeding me. And I didn't talk much at the time. And so I was just getting like so like worked up about it. And it was just fueling my motivation to actually start a gym, and not to show them, but just to show myself. Like it was just like, I don't know the answer to the question, but I'm going to figure it out. And so that fed a lot into me really, really wanting to open a gym and actually go for it once I was done.
At least it had that impact on you, because with some people that might have beaten them down, but with you, for whatever reason, like your personality type or whatever, it had the opposite effect.
Yes. I think that I do have to, I don't want to like paint a picture as, all of these guys were bad or something like that. But I do think that when I look back on it, we were all 22 years old, so it's like one, as a 22-year-old, maybe I interpreted things differently than I would now. Yeah, sure. And these guys are all, in their mid 30s, some of them are 40 now. So I'm sure they're completely different people. And if you if you even ask like most people, hey, do you remember that time you treated me like this when you were 18 years old? Like, yeah, sorry, I was like a punk ass teenager, Yeah. So to give them the benefit of the doubt, like we were all 22-year-olds, they're on steroids.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm sure that alone affected their personality. Yes. And let's face it, you're still pretty immature when you're 22. But,
yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're not like your brain's not even fully developed until you're 25. And so I have talked to a couple of them since, and this is the coolest dudes, and I don't think they maybe remember or realize like some of the negative impact they had on me at that time, and I don't feel like I have to tell them that, but I don't think they realize that. And if I was to say, hey man, back then you made me feel like this, they'd be like, damn man, I'm genuinely sorry, so like sure. I'm sure they would have that response. So yeah, it's like probably totally different people, and life as a 22-year-old, you just see the world a little bit differently or interpret things differently than if you were 32 or 42. So I always think back 100%. To that too, that I'm sure these guys aren't the exact same dudes, 12 years later.
It's a little bit like what we were talking about earlier on, like when you're younger, you just think in a different way. You're more sort of more like, going from thing to thing. And I think you're very more like simplistic, we were saying you're more tribal. you're probably more simplistic. You're acting almost more like how you would think an animal acts. You act spontaneously and don't think about the consequences of your actions. Whereas I think, with age comes a bit more wisdom. I mean, there's things that I can think back on I did as like whether it was a teenager or a child, or even, maybe when I was like 19, 20. I think, like, I can't believe I did that. That's like, it makes me feel almost like it's a bit cringeworthy for me now, but it's like, you can't obviously change the fact you did it at the time, but you just know that you wouldn't do that now. Now,
Yes.
now as me, as a guy that's going to turn, literally 34 next week, I certainly would not do that now. I'd be like mortified at even the thought of it. So yeah, I'm sure, those guys have grown a lot.
I even, when I was at Camp David, there was a guy who was another Marine who was in my friend's circle. We hung out together, but he was just always the brunt of our jokes. We would always tease him. And that was I just thought that was like what you do in the Marine Corps, or really what you do in fraternity, what you do in a sports team. It's just what guys do. Like, but he was always the brunt of, us like joking, making fun of him, teasing him. And if I was to watch a movie of myself, like all the highlights of things I said to him, the way I treated him, I would just be like, man, what a fucking asshole like I was.
Sure.
But so I would treat him.
Have you ever
this.
spoken to that guy?
Yeah. So he, one time I didn't think I did anything in particular. I don't even remember exactly what it was. Actually, I do. He was a skinnier guy. A really skinny guy, just naturally tall and lanky, and he was in his room, in his closet. We were in his barracks room, and he was in his closet, and he was doing something. He was like eating something, making something, and I told him he better eat you better eat a protein shake before you fly away with the wind. I had made a joke like that, like before the breeze catches you or something.
Yeah, sure.
And I had got up in his face while he was in the closet, and he snapped on me, and he shoves me as hard as he can, and I like slam into his stuff, and a lot of his stuff breaks and knocks over, and it like totally startles me. And he runs at me, and he like tries to grab me by the throat. I'm way bigger than him, and I'm not trying to hurt him. I'm just like defending myself, and I like get him to the ground and like lay on top of him and yell at him like to stop, And in my head, I'm thinking like, what is this dude doing? This maniac,
Yeah.
He's he snapped on me. Sorry, I just got a phone call and went through on the computer. But I'm like, what is this dude doing? He's lost his mind, not realizing that it was me that provoked it. And so anyways, that was when I was at Camp David. When I was at the body bear section, and I'm being treated like this. People are teasing me because I'm skinny. I'm like, damn, man, that's exactly how this dude felt. And I didn't realize that how badly I was treating him until after the fact, till it was me in that position.
Yeah.
And I actually called him.
On the other foot.
Yep.
Yeah.
I called him, and I just, he was confused. Like, what's up, dude? What are you calling me for? Because we were gone. I was in one section. He was gone. And somewhere else in the Marine Corps. And I just apologized to him. I was like, dude, I'm not going to like recount everything I've said to you, but like every time I've said something that you didn't like, I'm sorry. I did not realize, how much it affected you, and I'm sorry. And he was just kind of taken back, but he appreciated it, and he was like, wow, thank you, man. I actually went to when we got out of the Marine Corps, I went to he invited me to his wedding in Washington State. So I was still on the friends list.
That's nice, man.
But yeah, so it's like,
list.
Yeah. One time, once your situation is different, or maybe when you're on the other end of that, it's eye-opening. And so yeah, maybe that was why I reflected on it so much when I was in the body bear section. I just thought that this is how I've been treating him, not only him, but this is how I treated other people, not realizing how much of an impact it has. So yeah, it was a good learning experience for me to go through that.
Yeah. To be fair to you though, it takes not every individual would go to the effort to like ring somebody up and apologize for that. I mean, I've met some people in my life and I find it frustrating, but I think ultimately the only person they're really harming is themselves by being like this. But some people, it's almost like it's too hard for them to say sorry. I don't know if it's like an ego thing or it's just too hard for them to admit that they were like wrong or did something bad. But I think like just having just manning up and just saying sorry to someone. It's a small thing, but it can mean a lot, and I think it's quite a big gesture sometimes, especially if you're going out of your way to ring somebody up or pull them aside,
Yeah, if you can convince yourself that apologizing is going to make me feel better. It's a win-win because it makes the other person feel better too. So it's just going to make everything better. And I'm much more like that now too. And I don't know if it's just, with age or what, or life experience, but even with my wife, like if she, it might be going off on something and I'm just like, I had no idea or I don't understand fully. I'll just like, I'm really sorry you feel like that. I'm sorry I did that, whatever. I'm not going to be like, it's not a big deal. Like I didn't even do that. That's not what I meant. I'm just like, it's so much easier just to say you're sorry. It doesn't, it's not hurting anything. It's making both sides better, I think.
Yeah, and it's showing that you're actually like a bigger man, and also like, do you really want to be spending all your time having a pointless argument with your missus because you're too boneheaded to apologise for, for something,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it, man. So when you left the Marine Corps, like how long after that did you open your gym, and also how did you come up with a name?
Yeah, so when I was in the Marine Corps, one of my friends, he was my best friend in the body bear section. His name was Paul, and we were sitting down in the room, and he's asking me genuinely, like, "Oh, dude, that's so cool that you're doing this gym thing." We would actually go to a local gym on the weekends. It was about an hour away. He had a vehicle, I didn't, so I would hop in his vehicle. We'd drive to this gym, and they had strongman Saturdays for non-members. So we would do strongman at this gym. And so he would do that with me. And so he was all into it, like, oh, that's awesome. You're going to start a gym and all that. And he would ask me, what do you want to call it? And I said, I don't know, but I know that I want strength to be in the name, because that's what I want. Once you see the gym, hear about the gym, you know that strength kind of self-selects who goes in there. They're interested in some form of strength. Yeah. I don't want it to be something fitness or something club or something
it's
gym.
Too vague.
Yes, I want strength in there. Yeah. So it was kind of just thinking of like adjectives and strength. And I don't remember what exactly I came up with, but I had said there's 3 things that I want when I get out. I want a gym, I want a beard, and I want a ponytail. And I said, and he knew the whole thing behind it. They're like, I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to start with any employees. I don't want to work for anyone, because people had suggested, why don't you go be a personal trainer for a little bit to get some experience? Yeah. I said, well, because personal trainers work for people and I don't want to do that. So I just didn't want to be told what to do. And anyways, he rattled off some names, and he came up with, what about Untamed Strength? And that's just stuck. I was like, oh, that's tight, man. I like that. And so I went with that. And he knows that he was the one who came up with the name, but he was the one who thought of Untamed Strength. He actually surprised me. Man. No, thank you. He actually surprised me last year, which is the first time I've seen him since 2013, so 10 years. I was in the parking lot of Untamed. I was working on something on the back of my truck, and it was so wild. He just comes walking up. I see someone pull in the parking lot, and I don't pay attention to it, and he comes walking up to me, and I look at him, and I'm looking at him for a good 3 seconds, like realizing who it is, but I'm just like, wait, why is he here? Like, why? It was just so crazy. But he lives in Georgia, which is across the United States, and just by chance for work, he had to come to Sacramento, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna stop by the gym. And so that was really, really cool to see him. Didn't like send me a message, a phone call, like, hey, you gonna be around? Thankfully I was here. I wasn't at home or anything. Yeah. So it was pretty wild. But yeah, awesome. He came up with the name, Untamed Strength. But once I got out in earlier in the year, 2013, and then knew I wanted to start a gym, but I just didn't. I knew that I couldn't do it like the day I got back, because I didn't know anything. Like, do I need certifications? How do I get a business license? So I had to figure that out. Where am I going to get a spot? And I came across an opportunity once I got out in the spring, an opportunity to be the coach, the head football coach at my alma mater, my high school. The football coach that I had was still a teacher there, but he was not a coach anymore. And so I knew the coaches who were coaching at the time, and I went up to him. I said, hey, what are you guys doing for their summer weight training? And he was like, oh, we just kind of open up the gym and they come in. And I'm like, what? Like, this is not at all what I grew up on. And I said, do you have any coaches to run anything? And they're like, yeah, we're there, but mainly to open the door. And I said, can I take the guys through a workout? And they were like, oh my God, yes. Like, yes, please. So I ran the football program that summer. And I thought this would be a good experience, one, for me to get used to talking to people again. Because when I was in the Marine Corps, I was pretty quiet. If you watch some of my very first videos, I talk very slow and monotone. And some of the videos, it even looks like my teeth are still together when I'm talking. That's just how I talk. Like when I got out, this is how I talked.
Right.
And so I was like, this would be a good opportunity to get my voice back. And it'll give me some experience of group training, because I've never trained anyone in a group like this. So I did that for the summer that I got out. Once that was over, I was like, all right, it's time to go. Like, I'm not going to, this isn't, the idea is there. It's not going to get any better. I'm not going to learn anything else by reading in books about it. I need to actually do it. So the roommate that I was renting a room from a friend of mine at the time. He was a real estate agent and a commercial real estate agent, which was perfect. So I said, hey man, can you show me a couple spots in the area? And we found a few spots. Within that weekend, we found a spot. The landlord said it was cool to do a gym there. I downplayed what we were doing. I just said it's like personal fitness, one-on-one fitness, which caused some problems eventually. But we got that spot, and that's where I started. So it was within the year. I got out, and probably my contract ended in May of 2013, but I was on terminal leave for some time. So I probably got out in, actually it was March. No, I know when it was. It was March 20th, which was the day before my brother's birthday. March 20th, 2013. I also remember that because that was the last day that I shaved my face.
Right.
So
Nice.
March 20th, 9 years later, 2022 was my 9-year mark.
Nice.
But anyways, so March 20th, 2013, and then September 3rd, 2013, I opened the gym.
And what made you think to start YouTube? Did you start YouTube pretty much sort of in tandem with opening your gym?
I was putting videos on YouTube before when I was still in the Marine Corps, but they were just training videos. It'd be like 150-pound dumbbell clean and press or a 315 clean. I would just post those videos. But I was posting videos for some time when I started, but it was just as an advertisement for the gym. So I would just do gym highlights. None of it was really me.
Okay.
At the time, it was just members. And I would put the video together, put some music on it, and put it on YouTube, hoping that would draw in some members. But really, YouTube is global. I don't know how many people within the 10-mile radius are going to be watching thinking, wow, this looks fun. Where is this? Oh, it's 10 miles away, 5 miles away. Not going to be the case, and it wasn't.
Yeah, man.
But eventually, I came up with the idea to start making some instructional videos. And the reason was I didn't have very many members at all, hardly any. And so when there were no members at the gym, I didn't have anything to do. And I wasn't going to just stay at home. I was still in the gym. And I thought, I've exhausted all other forms of marketing. I've walked around and passed out postcards. I've talked to every person that I know who could possibly sign up. I've put up posters around town. I don't know what more to do. And so I got to a point where I was stuck. I didn't know what's next. What am I going to do today? And so every morning I would get up and I would write down 3 things. 3 things I'm going to do today, whether it was talk to so-and-so about the gym, whatever, go cold call someone, go do something, go make some business cards. There's 3 things I would do each day. And sometimes I would sit there for 45 minutes. I can't even think of 3 things to do today. I don't know what else to do. And one of them was I'll make some videos, some instructional videos, because while I was teaching people at Untamed, a lot of times it was just one-on-one. I would do group classes, but sometimes it'd be one person showing up. So it's just personal training. And as I'm teaching them, I'm like, I have a lot to teach people or stuff that I want to teach people. So why don't I record it and put it on YouTube? Not because I wanted to monetize it, just because maybe someone will see it in the area and they'll come. And so I had said, I'm going to make how to squat, how to deadlift, how to bench press, how to overhead press video. And those are the first 4 real instructional videos I made. And so I sat down, I'd write a script out, and I'd figure out how I was going to write this, how I was going to record it. And at the time I had looked on YouTube to see how to squat and all this stuff. And the videos were either not very good information, or it was like the Mike Chang 6-pack shortcuts was popular at the time. And he would have just terrible videos about squatting, not even with a barbell. And so I was like, I could do way better than this. And any videos I did see that were decent was just a camera set up from afar, and they just talk for 10 minutes. And I'm like,
Right.
if I'm talking about the feet, I want to take a video of the feet while I'm talking about that.
Right.
And I wanted to
Get those videography skills out.
yeah, so that was what make the B-roll. And I thought if a joke would pop into my head, I was like, I'll turn this into a skit, or I'll add this in. So I had fun creating the videos. And so I started to create those instructional videos and post them. And I remember the how to squat video was the one that really blew up and actually went viral. I had on my phone, on my iPhone, my email notifications would pop up every time I get one email. It'd pop up like a text message. I didn't turn it off, and so I remember one day I opened my phone up, turned it on. It was off. I turned it on, and it's loading for like 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it goes off, and it's just that whatever that noise is of the email. It's just and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? This glitch in my phone. And and then it said like 3,000 emails, maybe 5. I don't know. It was thousands of emails. And I opened it up, and it was like, so-and-so subscribe to your YouTube channel. So-and-so subscribe. And I'm looking through it. And I remember the first thing I'm thinking was, oh, shit, what did I do? I wasn't like, my video got popular. I was like, did I accidentally click on something? I don't know what's going on.
Right.
And I went and looked at the video, and I don't remember. Yeah, that's how it felt. Yeah. I thought what did I went to look at the video. I don't remember how many views it had, but I was like, wow, that's a lot of people that have viewed this video. And I guess someone had posted it, or people had posted on Reddit, and then it was on the front page of Reddit. And so that's where it got a bunch of popularity. And so anyways, that kind of started I should start making YouTube videos in hopes that it would bring people in. And it actually got to the point where, okay. My wife is picking my son up, and she was texting me, so I'm just making sure she wasn't asking hey, you're picking him up, right?
Oh, that's cool, man. No worries.
So, where was I? So I was.
You just got those that your phone went off, got all these subscribers. You're thinking, right? Okay, I'm going to do some YouTube instructional videos.
Yes. So it wasn't to be monetized. I remember there was one guy who had emailed me. His name is Vivian. He's from France. And he said, I would love to come visit your gym for a few days to train at your gym. And I was like, what? I'm like, you want to come from France to go to this gym? And I'm like, it's just a tiny little space. There's nothing great about it, And so he actually did come. And he was like, I want to pay for some training. And I'm like, I don't charge people for training. It was just a gym membership, and then I'm there to train everyone. So I didn't charge personal training. And so I was like, sure, dude, you can just pay me this much, a fraction of the membership, and then I'll just work with you whenever. So he would come to the gym, and we work together, and I'd teach him how to squat, bench, deadlift, and we do some strongman. And so we did a full few days of just working together. And I was just like, man, seems like the YouTube channel is getting more popular than the gym. These randoms are coming in, and I couldn't make money off that. It was just people would come and maybe pay a partial membership. And then these two guys contacted me and said, we desperately need help with our deadlift and our squats. These two guys, they were from the United States. I don't remember where, but they said, can we come in and do some personal training with you? I said, yeah, sure. So they came in. I remember the first session, we spent 4 hours. Because I had nothing to do. So it was just 4 hours of working with these people, with these two guys. And after, they were like, man, this was an incredible experience. We went to Kelly Starrett, The Supple Leopard, because that book was kind of new at the time.
Yeah,
we went to Kelly Starrett, and we scheduled a session with him to get our mobility looked at. And because they were in San Francisco, it's only a couple hours away from Sacramento. And he said, we went to this session with him. And first off, we got in there, and it wasn't him. It was one of his proteges, someone else. So they're like, oh, this is kind of a letdown. And we did this session, and it was 59 minutes, 59 seconds, and 60 minutes, done. Cold stop, he left.
Right. See you later.
So they were like, man, okay. And they spent a couple $100 on this hour session to get their mobility checked. And when they told me that, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you would pay that, you know? Like, yeah, we really want our mobility. And like personal training rates, I didn't know anything about that at the time. And anyways, I just worked with them for 4 hours, and there was no time limit. I didn't say we're going to work for an hour. We just worked until we were done. Yeah, and they were like, hang on, how much do we owe you? And I'm like, I shrugged my shoulders. I was like, I don't know. They're like, what do you mean you don't know? And I said, I don't have personal training rates. I just like people pay a membership. At the time it was $60. People pay a monthly membership, and I'm here to coach. I don't know. And they were like, we're going to pay you something. And I'm like, I don't really know, man. I honestly don't know how much. I'm not going to charge you what Supple Leopard charged you. And anyways, they were like, they just pulled out their wallets, and they pulled out just like a bunch of 20s and a couple 50s, and they gave me a couple $100. Nice. They're like, here, take it. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, this is awesome. Like like this is easy, you know. This is what I want to do, and people are willing to pay for it. So anyways, I don't even know where. Oh, so there were people seeing the YouTube channel, coming to the gym, and wanting training or just to check out the gym. And I'm kind of not getting frustrated, but I'm just confused at the time. I'm like, man, I would really like to have more members. Like, I don't want people, you know, someone from France to come visit the gym. Like, I want
just dropping
more members
in every now and again.
Yeah. And so the YouTube channel didn't really help with at the start. Didn't really help with growing the gym membership. And I remember, like, how do I, you know, try to make some money off this? I guess I'll sell T-shirts. So I bought some Untamed Strength T-shirts. I paid way too much money for them, and then I sold them for like the same price that I bought them for. And I didn't know how to do because I was like, oh, it's like $18 a shirt. I'll sell them for 20. Sweet. Like just didn't, like literally just that dumb. And I said I didn't know how to do shipping. And so I said, my mom at the time worked at UPS store. And I said, okay, I'll have her like ship these out, you know? So anyways, I advertised it. The YouTube channel was pretty big at the time. I got a bunch of people to buy all these Untamed Strength shirts. And so I didn't make a whole lot of money on the shirts because I was selling them for not much more. And then I just charged, I didn't know how to work shipping rates. So I said $5 flat shipping fee. Yeah. Because I didn't know how much shipping cost. There were people buying them from like Germany, from you know, all over the place.
Man, I've bought a couple of your T-shirts.
Oh, thank you, man. And it's probably $20 to ship or something. It's just auto-generated rates. But yeah, shipping internationally.
Sorry, dude, man, I've made you out a loss there, but
no,
the ways of the UK.
I've worked it out. I've worked it out now. Yeah, but I'm shipping these shirts that I'm making like a couple bucks on, and I'm shipping them for like $20. And I'm like, ooh, that's a big loss. Like, I'm not that good at math, but that's not good. Yeah. And I went to bring my mom this whole first package. I had this huge box of shirts, and she like scanned them all, and then gave me the bill for how much it cost. And it was like, Alan, you owe like $853, you know, in shipping. And I'm like, what? I'm just like totally messed it up. Lost a bunch of money. And so I just, I don't even remember like where I went from there before I went with like a different company. But anyway, so there was stuff like that. Like, I'll make some money doing that. And then one of the members, he's still a member today, and he was good with social media at the time. And he said, why don't you get your videos monetized? And he said, you could put ads on the front of them. I was like, I don't want to watch a commercial before my videos. And he was like, you can make money, and you can just skip the ads. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So he didn't know what he was doing beyond that. He said, just go to this website, put in your YouTube channel info, and it'll be monetized through Google. And I did, and so I started getting paid through Google. Nice. But what I didn't know was that this company takes a third of the monetization. So it was Google takes a third, this company took a third, and then I got the rest of the third. So anyways, and I was locked into that for 2 years. So I couldn't get out of it. This company is just a scam company. But anyways, so I started making a little bit of money off the YouTube videos, a little bit of money off the T-shirts once I figured that out. And anyways, to move on from that, the thing that actually got foot traffic into the gym was hosting a competition. I hosted a strongman competition. That got a lot of people from local gyms or just commercial gyms to be like, I'll try this strongman thing. And a lot of people that come bring their friends and family, and they were like, man, I didn't know this thing existed so close. And so I started getting more traffic for memberships, but also I would host a strongman Saturday free training. And a lot of people would show up to that. And they would milk that out for quite a while of getting free training. And then eventually they'd move over to getting their own membership. So that actually helped with foot traffic. The YouTube channel at first didn't really. So the YouTube channel was, I think, bigger than the gym itself in terms of exposure.
I can imagine by this point in time, like the YouTube channel has helped massively there.
What's that?
I said I can imagine by this point in time, though, the YouTube channel has helped your gym massively.
Yes, the YouTube channel absolutely helps with SEO in Google. So if someone goes on Google and they type in the area barbell training, powerlifting, strongman, strength training, gym, my gym will pop up because a lot of it's the first thing that pops into Google is my YouTube stuff. And so there are people who, when they sign up, if I get a chance, I'll ask them, how'd you hear about the gym? Some people just say, I heard it from so-and-so. Some people say, I was just Googling. Some lady just the other day was at my strongman class and said she Googled strength training for women and saw this gym pop up. So,
right.
Yeah. So because YouTube and Google are connected, anything that I put in YouTube, whether it's titles, whether it's in the description, that all kind of goes into YouTube searches, Google searches. And so people will say, oh, I typed in this gym, I saw your videos, and then I saw that you were in the area. It's not like, not everyone is, coming from the YouTube channel. They're not like, I've been watching you for years and I decided to join. A lot of it is just I was searching on Google and I found this. So it's helped tremendously in that aspect.
Do you still get like people every single week just dropping by because they just want to go to Untamed Strength because they're fans of your YouTube?
No, it's actually been far less.
Really? I'm surprised at that in a way.
So there are a lot of people who come like, hey, I heard about the gym, like local area or powerlifting or strongman, and I want to try it out. But they're not necessarily coming from the YouTube channel. And I don't know if that's maybe me just, I guess, posting less. Maybe there's less of like the novel effect of like, wow, look at this powerlifting gym. That would be a dream because there's so many powerlifting gyms all over the world now. Maybe I want to come to this gym and try some strongman equipment when you can find strongman equipment in any big city now. So it might be some of that. It also might be that there's just maybe I think that I was at like a golden era in YouTube when YouTube in YouTube Fitness for instructional content.
Yeah,
like you would go to find how to do something, whereas now you can find that everywhere. Everyone's doing a how to squat video or something like that, and so you kind of you have so many more options of people to follow. Whereas maybe at the time for just barbell lifting, you were focusing on maybe my channel, maybe like Omar Isaf, Johnny Candido, like that whole powerlifting community. When everyone was like, wow, these guys are like top notch. When really we're putting out videos at the right time kind of thing. So I think that appeal has kind of worn off. So people aren't like, I gotta go try Untamed Strength. There are people who do drop in from all over the world still, but it's not on a weekly basis. It's not as frequently as it used to be. A lot of times people who drop in are doing a road trip. California is a big place. So people say, we went to Los Angeles and we did this and we came up to San Francisco, we drove along the coast, and then we came to Sacramento. Lake Tahoe is very popular as well, I've noticed, with foreigners. And so there's San Francisco, Sacramento, Lake Tahoe. So people on their way over there will stop by the gym. So there are still people who stop by from all over, but it's far less common than it used to be. Yeah,
I guess it's like one of those things, isn't it? It's like I've always said to my missus, like if I'm like in California, then I'm gonna sort of I'm gonna go to Untamed Strength. But like logistically, I live in the southwest UK. I'd have to go all across the Atlantic. I mean, I've been to America several times in my life, but I haven't been for a little while. But all across the Atlantic, and then you're on the Pacific coast.
On the other end of that,
so I have to travel all across the US as well.
Yeah,
it's
not
a big
just
old
I
place.
need to get to the United States. You get to the United States, and then you have another 6-hour to 8-hour flight, depending on stops, to Sacramento. Yeah.
But going to what you were saying about being the golden era, I remember I'm just trying to think who I sort of followed in the YouTube fitness community back in the day. But I say you've always been one of my favorites. Like, the other guy I can think of that I always thought was really motivational, and I just liked his videos was Brian Alsrew. I always liked his stuff. I mean, I would just almost daily I would just watch like your videos and Brian Alsrew's videos. You know, I just loved your sort of comedic style, and just how you're very good at putting stuff in a way that everyone can understand. I think, you know, I think you sometimes, whether it's because people are trying to sell themselves as you know, as super clever, so as like a marketing tactic, or maybe just because they are super scientifically minded. You know, people sometimes get really into like the nitty gritty of the science of exercise and what's going on inside the muscle, and this is happening and this is happening. But I think that, let's face it, like a lot of people that are getting into training and stuff, that's going to sort of go over their head, and it might even put them off potentially, like almost like intimidate them with the big words and stuff. So it's like, if you can put things in a way, it just basically it's putting it in layman's terms, isn't it? You know, like people want to hear things in layman's terms. Not everybody is going to be an expert. It's like when you go to like a mechanic's even, you know, you don't want the mechanic to give you a half-hour rundown of the intricate reason of why your car hasn't started. You want him to tell you in basic way that you can understand, right, why your car hasn't started, what he can do to fix it, and then can he fix it? You know, like that's what you want to know. I think that's to me, I think that you that's your sort of strength. You sort of put things in a way that you make it seem simple, taking it back to basics, and then when you mix that with you know, as you said, your skits, your comedic aspect. Oh yeah, sort of touching on that a second as well. I thought it was quite an interesting thought I had when you were saying about how much you liked doing the little skits. You'd write a joke and put it into that. I was thinking it obviously just shows that there's quite a creative side of you, and obviously everything that you mentioned in your life beforehand, whether it was being in the Marine Corps or like football, you know, it was seemed much more like whether it was like sport or like the military. It's like much more like practical, and you know, having that creative outlet, was that really nice for you suddenly to be like creative in your life?
Yeah, it's a good point. I've always been creative or artistic in that sense. I do like drawing. It's nothing like that I'm going to sell to anyone, but I do like drawing. I don't do it as much anymore unless I'm drawing or something with my son. Yeah. But I do like drawing. I do like creating things. I remember in school, a lot of times I would be drawing, like doodling stuff on my papers. And I actually remember in 8th grade, it would have been in middle school, I always draw like faces, like just different characters. And I would draw like a big fat guy or something like that, just cause like something like with just with different proportions, or someone that looked like a Holocaust survivor, just like very cartoonish. And I remember I would always draw this stuff on my notes section, and my middle school teacher came up to me and he saw me drawing, and he was like, Alan, he's like, should I be worried that you are drawing all these men without shirts on all your notes? Which is probably not something you would say like nowadays, but like, should you be worried, you know? But anyways, I'm just like, I don't know, like there's nothing to it, because I liked drawing. Anytime that we had a skit in school, I loved doing it. If it was like a present in front of the class with, you know, a group, if we could be animated or something, I always loved doing it. In my Spanish class, I had to do a skit. You have to make a story. You had to record the story, a video, and the story had to be in Spanish. And so anyways, that was like a blast to me to do that, to record these different characters, and we'd dress up like cops and robbers and like write this crazy scene and stuff like that. So I love doing that. So that creative thing was always there for me. So yeah, the YouTube is definitely a way to do that. And there was a time when, you know, during that golden age I talked about, I think skits were really popular and impactful. Yeah. Like you couldn't make a video or go through a video without some sort of skit. It was just, it was fun.
That's great though. I think that made it like the videos way better. Like obviously Omar's another guy that's a great, you know, he's got a great sense of humor, like great like, skits and stuff. I'm a big fan of him as well. But like, you know, it just, to me, it's like, it's very simple. It's like kids, they want, say like a kid's favorite teacher is going to be the teacher that makes them laugh while they're learning.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
That's
simple.
a good point.
It's the same when you're an adult. You know, you don't want like learning shouldn't be boring.
Yeah,
make it fun. You know,
I find sometimes I have to reel it back, but sometimes I use a lot of metaphors and analogies, and so
no, I think it's great.
When I do that, if I say like doing this is just like doing that, I'm like I might as well, if I'm going to add that with words, I might as well do it with picture. And I remember thinking that too. That hey, if someone watches this whole thing and it's a little dry and boring, but they laugh at it, like you had mentioned, that maybe it's a little bit more memorable, or like, oh, that was a pretty good video, just because it made someone laugh. So I think the metaphors and analogies in my head also help with the creative part of like, I'll just reenact this if I can. So
yeah, I remember like your when I first started watching you, I think you had was it your first like musical intro that like do 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 do?
Oh yes, that was At the Gates.
And like is that the name of the band? Sorry.
Yeah, At the Gates.
Right.
Yeah, the song is called "World of Lies." If you listen to that song, my intro was sped up. So you listen to the song, and it's like when I knew the song, so I'm okay with it, but it just sounds slower. Do 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 do. So it's slower.
Right.
So mine's sped up. So if you're used to that, it's hard to listen to. But At the Gates, "World of Lies" is the song. So, but yeah, anyways,
that was like. I was going to say that was like such a good way to like start your videos, because it was like almost a collection of little comedic skit moments, wasn't it? With the music, it was like one where you were like in the bath and like other like just like silly things, like you know.
Yeah, I wanted if someone was to watch that for the first time, they would just like get thrown off. It was so fast, you know. Like, what the hell was that? You know, what's he in a bath for? Just totally out of context, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I can only speak for myself. I mean, I guess you could say the downsides of that is you maybe making your videos more like niche. But for someone like myself who grew up really big fan of comedy and metal and training, as I said, you know, when at the start of the show, it was almost like perfect. I was like, I knew this video is for me. You know? Yeah.
So and I've never thought about that, to say I could probably get more reach if I leave this out. It's never really been about that. If I want to put it in the video, I will, as long as it's not like, you know, grossly offensive or disgusting. Like I'll put it in the video if it comes into my head. So but and I've never tried. I've just tried to whatever's in my head. I want to just make that as best I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. When did it first sort of like become like crazy to you? Almost, you know, obviously, once you reached a certain level of YouTube fame, you started bumping shoulders with some really big figures, like in the strength industry. Like, what was that like? Surreal for you? What was that like?
Yeah, it was. I have never. I was always whenever I do these collaborations. When I used to, that was another thing. Collaborations used to be really, really popular. You'd always wait to see your favorite fitness, you know, guys collab. But I always did a collaboration as a fan myself. There was always someone that I watched, someone that I wanted to meet. It was never like, I have more subscribers than this person. What's in it for me or whatever. It was never anything like that. So I've seen Omar Issa videos. My favorite thing was meeting these guys for the first time and just sizing them up, not in a bad way, but just to see, like, you know, you just don't get a feel for what someone is built like on a camera. So just to see a person that you've been watching behind a camera, that was always cool. And then just to get used to their true personality. Is this person like they are on camera? Are they better? Are they worse? So it was always just from a fan perspective. I just like doing the collaborations. Just to get to meet them. And yeah, it is like when people say, you know, like you mentioned at the start, like fangirling a little bit. It's cool to actually talk to you as a person rather than just seeing you on a screen. I've been there not a million, but I've been there a bunch of times too, to watch these people and then get to meet them. It's just crazy. It's cool to like have an interactive chat with them. So I totally get that, but it is cool just to meet all these different people, kind of come together for a video is cool.
I remember like a few years ago, what was it? I think in like one of like Stan Efferding's like Q&As or something, somebody asked him like if if I need to go somewhere to like learn like basics of training or something, where should I go? And like Stan Efferding or like recommended your channel, and I thought like I remember even thinking like, I bet for Alan that's like freaking cool, because I mean I follow you more than I follow Stan Efferding, but obviously if you're really into strength sports, you know who Stan Efferding is. He's a big deal, so I can imagine for you to be like recommended by someone like him it was pretty like mind blowing.
Yes, it was awesome. I don't remember who let me know that, but I was like, wow, that is incredible. Like a world-class power lifter giving us some how to sending my instructional videos was really cool. That was, and it is awesome. I never looked past it, Yeah.
Who were like some of your like favorite other YouTubers that you've collabed with? Like, who has been the people that when you've been with them, you thought, this guy or gal is like freaking awesome. I'm so enjoying spending time with them and doing this, like, working on this content with them.
So the YouTubers that I don't have a bunch of horror stories or very good stories of like collabs that were not good or a bunch of dirt on someone, because I don't do that many collaborations because I don't travel a lot. So if they're going to come to Untamed Strength, cool. But I would say that the people who are who they appear to be on camera, which is refreshing. Some of them even better. They're even better people than you could even imagine. Omar Isaf, Silent Mike, Joey Zatmary, Brian Alsrew. Those are the main ones. I haven't collabed with a whole lot of other people, but those four guys, like if they were in town, they wanted to grab a beer or train, I would, make it happen. But they're all, and I still talk to, all of them, particularly Omar most often, and then Joey, and then Mike and Brian when I can. So, I forgot about Joey Satsmary. He's a freaking beast as well, isn't he? He's a unit of a man. Yes,
he's like one of those guys. I was going to say like Brian the same. I know Brian's had like a lot of health issues the last sort of like 5 years. It seems like I've thought to myself, man, like that guy needs a break, because it seemed like he had that like crazy African gut thing. And then I remember his videos, he was like, I've got Lyme's disease as well. And then he was like, if he wasn't tearing this, he was tearing that. And So, I mean, he seems like he's on the mend now. I mean, I think I saw his latest video and he said he was recovering from, I can't remember if it was like a shoulder injury or something, but I thought but back in the day, and Joey's one of these guys as well, I'd watch like Brian Alsrew's videos when he's like at his peak, and I would just be like, man, that guy is a freaking machine. Like,
and when you see him in person too, he's like, he's 6'3", when he was 280 pounds, enormous, and he could sprint faster than you, he could jump higher than you, he could lift more than you. So he's not just a big oaf. Like he is an athlete of like expanded proportions. He is a big, strong dude. And I actually programmed for him back when he was doing strongman. I programmed for him for a while, and he's like the type of dude I could throw anything and he would do it. He would get it done. Whereas a lot of people, you gotta like, hey, this is too much, this hurts, this doesn't, I gotta make this adjustment, which is fine. But Joey's just like, throw it at him and he'll make it work. But he's a stud, an athletic stud.
I think with like Joey and Brian, they're both of the sort of guys, is like their issue isn't saying, nah, this is too much. Their probably issue is like they should have actually stopped before something broke.
Telling them stuff that they should not be doing rather than stuff they should be doing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like a lot of like Brian's issues the last couple of years in terms of his injuries have just been like, I mean, in a way, I'm not surprised. Like the way the man trains, like, I mean, he's sort of like the Terminator, but then you have to remind yourself, like, no, he's flesh and blood like us, and there's only so much you can have your foot like firmly on the pedal, like flatlining it before something sort of goes. I mean, to sort of a throwback to one of your old videos where you had like the cup with the water filling up and stuff like that, and obviously you were sort of explaining overtraining, and once the workload goes over that, it's like the water filling out of the cup. You're not doing yourself any good. If anything, you're just going to do yourself, just going to set yourself back.
I think he just lives a really hard lifestyle too, but by choice, just where he's living now, and seeing the videos he's posting about chopping wood and all these like chopping down trees and So I'm sure he's climbing up mountainsides and slipping and falling and carrying a bunch of stuff all day and then training really hard. But I don't think that he wants anything other than that. So he knows that this is all like part of the territory, and I think he's fine with it. He just wants to live a hard physical life and not avoid all these injuries. Avoid them to the best he can, but not avoid them at the sake of, being more careful. So
I have to say I do love his videos. Whether it's like just him freaking manically chopping insanely large, like logs, or even just like his like whittling spoons and that. I just think that's freaking cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
And what's it called as well? Is what's it called? Like the old-fashioned like style of writing, like is it calligraphy?
Oh yes, yeah, that's it.
He's like doing stuff like that, and I thought, man, that's so cool. Like, just when I didn't think I could think he was any freaking cooler, like he's doing stuff like that as well. Like, that's awesome, Yeah. Who would you say made you feel like most starstruck out of everyone that you've sort of met? So
back before I had a gym, I would go on YouTube in the computer lab. You'd kind of get this little space. You had this limited internet connection. But during my time when I wasn't lifting or doing anything, I would go to the computer lab and I would look around on YouTube. And I would also upload some of my videos to YouTube, some of my training videos. But I remember seeing Elliot Holt's videos, and he had exactly what I wanted. He was a strongman competitor. He was a coach. He had a warehouse gym. And so I would watch all his videos, every single video he'd post, I'd watch it. And I went to a Yo Elliot Live seminar that he did in New York. I took a train from DC to New York, and I went to his seminar. And seeing him for the first time, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I got to see all of his videos every single day. This is wild. So that was probably the most impacted I've been. Seeing Mark Bell for the first time was pretty wild. So I went to a powerlifting meet at Super Training way back in the day when it was like Eric Lillybridge was there, Chad Wesley Smith.
Oh, he's another legend that I'm a big fan of. Chad, he's just so smart.
Yep,
I'm such a big fan.
So seeing these guys, Stan Efferdine was there. He wasn't lifting, but he was there. But seeing these guys and shaking their hand was like starstruck. Not only because, hey, I've watched your videos before. I've ran the Juggernaut Method, your program, but it was like just seeing the size of these dudes in real life was pretty wild. He's
a beast, Chad, as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's like fairly unassuming in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's like a freaking bear, but he's not like a chiseled dude. But it's deceiving how athletic he is. Like he's not just a big strong guy. Like he's an athlete.
Yeah, having that throwing background definitely is obvious.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've seen videos of him doing like burpees and all sorts of stuff like in between his training, and it's like you don't. I mean, it's crazy when you see a big guy like Brian and like Alsrud doing that in between like madly heavy squats or whatever, but when you see a guy like Chad Wesley Smith who looks like a bear, who he's like a legit 300 plus pounder, like doing like almost like CrossFit style workout or something. But I mean,
I know he's been doing more jiu-jitsu. I don't know about recently, but I know he was doing jiu-jitsu, so it makes sense.
For sure, man. What if you don't mind me asking, when did you sort of first meet your wife, and what does she think of what has she thought of like your path and the fact that you're almost like a YouTube celebrity and got this like massively successful gym? Like what's her thoughts on all of that?
So I met my wife in way back in middle school, and we knew each other through high school. We were kind of in the same friends group, but it wasn't until I got out of the Marine Corps that we started hanging out more, and boyfriend, girlfriend, and then married. So I've known her for a long time. So she was around when we started dating when I got out of the military. And so she grew with the beard. She grew with the ponytail. She grew with the gym.
Nice.
So it wasn't like she, saw me with this long hair and beard or whatnot. And thought, so she grew with it, and she grew with the gym too. So she knows all of the hard work that's been put into it, and she's seen it progress. It's not like she came out of nowhere, and I have to explain to her like, this is YouTube, and someone said hi to me because they watch my YouTube channel. Like she's used to it. But my wife is a very, very chill person. She doesn't get like overly excited about things. So meaning like she's chill about it. She's not going to be like,
Yeah.
wow, they recognize you from your YouTube channel, or wow, you have this many subscribers. She's not even big with social media or anything. So she knows about it, but she doesn't.
She's just very
put much
down to
thought
earth.
into it. Yeah. Which is good.
Yeah, cause,
I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's not like, I mean, you see some people and then it's almost like, like they train together and stuff. But am I right in thinking like your missus isn't really even really interested in that, is she?
No.
No.
And I think that's people have commented on that in the past. Does she do strongman? And I'm like, no. She she exercises, but like she's not like lifting weight or powerlifting or anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, I wouldn't have guessed. It's like, what? I don't. Yeah. So she's not like. If I'm recording, she wants to be away from the camera. She doesn't really want to be on camera. She has been a few times, but doesn't really want to be on camera. If I'm recording something and I'm just being ridiculous or saying stupid stuff and she can hear it, she just kind of like rolls her eyes.
I love that, man.
So yeah, she's not like she's not really into all of it. Yeah. She gets it and understands it because she's been around it for so long. But no, she's not doing powerlifting or strongman, or she's not like a fitness chick or anything like that.
You said that she like works out. What does she like to do for fitness?
Honestly, sometimes she'll do like body weight workouts in the garage. If she goes to the gym, she doesn't come to this gym anymore. She used to, like when I didn't have any members, but that was probably just for sympathy. But when she goes to the gym, just like machine stuff, there's no structure. She's not worried about RPE and progressive overload and all that stuff.
Sure.
So yeah,
just general fitness, like basically motion is lotion, better than doing nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, go on a slow jog, a walk, a hike, maybe ride the bike. That's it. So we don't talk about like, log press technique and stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't bore her to death with all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about your videos is all like the cooking videos you do. Obviously, you mentioned earlier on that you very briefly were thinking about going into like culinary school and stuff like that, and you said that you like cooking and stuff. But I mean, man, yeah, your cooking videos are good. It's good content, man. It's good content.
Well, thank you. I'm glad someone likes it. I just the more I just meet a lot of people who just have no idea, no understanding of how to cook, or they think it's something that's this huge process. And so a lot of times I'll just like making videos. Hopefully someone sees it. It's like, oh, that's not that bad. I could manage to do that. So yeah, and I think that cooking is an important skill to have as an adult. And so if I can put out some videos, then cool. But nowadays I think a lot of content, but especially diet content, can be, people are very particular about what they eat or what they're told to eat, what not to eat. So it's just I don't do it as much, like, oh, how are you eating this and this, and don't you think that this, and don't you know the harms of that? And it gets me to roll my eyes. I don't even look at the comments, but I just see it on other people's posts. Yeah. So it's almost like, look, just because I'm posting something doesn't mean I'm telling you that this is what you need to eat. But people seem to take it that way sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely picked up a couple of things. I'm talking more in terms of like, things that I've seen that you've done in your videos that I haven't tried before, and I thought, I'll try that. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think at the moment, I think it's very like a hot thing, isn't it? In like social media and stuff, is maybe like the demonization of certain food groups and stuff like that. And I can tell that you're like a very common sense and sort of down to earth guy in terms of like you're looking at it as a whole. In terms of like if you're working out, you've got you're a decent body weight. You lift weights, you run, you eat a lot of salad and fiber and stuff, but you're still hitting good protein. Like, you're pretty much good to go. It's that you don't have to be like stressing the hell out because you had like pasta once or twice a week.
Yeah, that's exactly
looking at the big picture. Looking at the big picture rather than the small picture. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, man. Just to finish off, Alan, I've got like some quick fire questions. If that's all right.
Yep.
Favorite lifts and why?
The squat. If I was limited to only one lift for the rest of my life, it would be the squat, because I think that it builds your body physically and it builds your mind mentally better than any other lift. So that would be it. Actually, my real answer would be, if I could only do one movement, it would be a clean and press, because you get a deadlift, a squat, and a press. But I won't use that answer. I'll say the squat has got to be my favorite lift.
Nice. If you could only do 5 exercises, what would they be and why?
squat, overhead press, pull-ups, dips, and a clean. I was deciding whether or not to put deadlift in there, but I'm going to do some. I'm going to do some explosive movement, so maybe like a power clean.
Sure.
But I will always pick a squat over a deadlift, just because that's my personal preference. But those are them.
Why would you pick those exercises?
A squat because it's my favorite. I think it's the best leg builder out there.
Mm-hmm.
You get the front of your legs, the back of your legs, your glutes, and a bunch of core. That actually strengthens your back as well, so you don't necessarily need to do the deadlift. And if you want to get more posterior chain, just put the bar lower and bend over more.
Sure. So
the squat's in there for that reason. Also trains the adductors, your groin, which doesn't get hit very well with other movements. The overhead press, because I want to do a pressing movement that I can add weight to, and I will always pick a press over a bench press.
Okay.
I don't particularly like the bench press anyways. A pull-up because I have to do some sort of row, and I just think that it's the most useful row.
Mm-hmm.
The dip, I would say a dip or a push-up, but I feel like a dip is a little bit more difficult, so I don't have to do endless amount of push-ups. I can get a really good workout with fewer dips. I can also do weighted dips. And then a power clean because I want some sort of explosive movement where I have to move weight quickly.
Nice, man.
I think that was all 5.
Yeah, for sure. If you sort of summing it up, how would you say your own training has evolved over the years?
I think that I've incorporated more and more over the years. Sometimes, and this was something that someone recently said to me, like, dude, like I think it was supposed to be derogatory, but dude, this dude hops on something different every year. And it's kind of seems like that. Powerlifting, all in for strongman, all in with running, all in with bodybuilding, all in with whatever, right? All in with Olympic lifting. But the thing is, while it may seem that way on YouTube, like, hey, you've posted like a whole bunch of running videos for the past 6 months. You posted a whole bunch of bodybuilding videos for the past 6 months. It's as if I'm throwing everything out and trying something new. It's not the case. I'm still powerlifting. I still bench, squat, deadlift. I still do strongman every day, every workout.
Mm-hmm.
I still run. I still have been learning a lot of stuff from the past year, incorporating more bodybuilding. So I'm still doing all of it. It's just incorporating all of it and pretty much keeping myself engaged in my workout. So if I want to try something new, I'm going to. If I want to stop doing something, I'm going to. Whereas I might have not done that years ago. Just put your head down, just do these lifts. You have to do this. You have to maintain these numbers on these lifts. If I want to try something, I'm not going to do that because if I'm training for a competition, I'm going to limit what I'm doing. But if I genuinely want to try something, just do it. Even on my squats, if I go in a squat and I just really want to do a front squat today, or I want to squat with a specialty bar, just do it. It's okay. I don't have to beat myself, down with a barbell. Bench is one example recently of something I have not been doing for a few months now. It was just causing me shoulder pain. I don't know why. Like, it would ramp up, get good, and then my shoulder would bother me. My pec would bother me. And it's just like this cycle after the past couple of years of like trying to get bench to where it's at. And I'm like, I don't even really like bench. I could just do other things. So I haven't really been benching at all.
Yeah, fair play, man. I mean, to be honest, I think that's like how my own sort of training has evolved over the years as well. It's like very similar to what you've described, and it's probably one of the reasons I like your content. But I think that comment as well, you were saying about accusing you of sort of program hopping or whatever. I think I've never thought that about you myself. I think there are some sort of YouTubers. I think the only time it's bad, right, and I've seen this with some other YouTubers, is if they preach something and they say, this is the only way to train, and then the year after they say, now this is the only way to train. You said, yeah, but last year you said that this is the only way to train. But you've never been like that. You've never been like preachy about it. You've just been like, this is what I'm doing at the moment. And then you'll get into something else. And I think, to be honest, if everyone's being honest, that's just what human beings are like. Like, we get into things sometimes. We'll get into something else. We'll have fun with that for a little bit, and then for some reason you might get bored of that. Something else sort of piques your interest, and then you're going to do that. And I think that's like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah,
I think that if it would be different if I was, I mean, not that it's a bad thing, but it'd be different if I'm all in for powerlifting, and then I'm all in for video games, and then I'm all in for whatever, painting, like just totally different activities. But doing powerlifting, strongman, Olympic weightlifting, whatever, it all falls under the umbrella of lifting weights. You're still doing it, it's just different titles, slightly different goals, slightly different pursuits, but it's all still the same. Falls under the umbrella of resistance training, falls even under the bigger umbrella
training,
of fitness, just exercise,
working out.
I don't think there's anything wrong with trying other stuff like that.
No, I don't either. You used to be known for your long hair and crazy beard. Why did you decide to cut them both? And what was your initial reaction once you'd made the plunge? Did you regret it at all? And do you ever miss it now?
I do not miss it. And I said I didn't know when I was going to cut my hair and beard. I didn't have a certain time. I didn't say I'm going to make it to 10 years and then I'll cut it. I actually made it to about 9 years, 9.5 years. But I said I will know when I want to cut it, because I had a deep desire to have it. I was obsessed with it. I was like, I am going to get a hair and beard as long as I can. And after probably like halfway through, like 4 or 5 years, I think my beard was longest it ever got. It like right around my nipples.
It was pretty damn long, man.
It was right around my nipples, and it never got any longer. And I don't know if that's because it just breaks off or because I was kind of pulling it out with strongman stuff. But it wasn't getting any longer. So I was like, all right, if I keep this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's not going to like get down to my knees, And then same with my hair. I was just my lifestyle was just always pulling my hair out. So it was always, breaking off. So I don't think it was getting any longer. It was like at peak length about halfway through. So anyways, I said I'm not going to cut it until I really want to get rid of it. And I didn't want to get rid of it until my son was old enough. He was two and a half, maybe 3 years old, when he liked to actually get up and wrestle. So he liked to climb on my back when I was on the ground. He'd like to wrestle. He'll come and put his hand up like this, and he'll say, "Lock it up." And so we'll put our hands like this, and we'll pull on each other. And so wrestling with him was always yanking my hair out, like just huge chunks of it, yanking my beard out. If we'd go do something and he was tired, he'd want a piggyback ride, and I'd put him up and it would just pull my hair out. I was swimming with him. I was trying to teach him how to swim, and he would go underwater and I'd kind of go under with him and I'd play with him. And I went underwater one time, and my hair was just kind of floating around the water, and it got like wrapped in his foot, and he's like kicking his foot, and it's just ripping my chunks like underwater. And I'm like, man, this is miserable. And so I was like, I'm going to have to cut it at some point. I'm not gonna have this when I'm 60 years old. So I'm just gonna get rid of it. And I could already feel and see that it was like thinning up here. My hairline was thinning up here, and I was like, I don't want to be like I don't want to have a skullet, like I don't want the long hair with the thinning out in the top.
Old rocker dude.
And, so I was like,
ponytail at the back, but like bold here.
Yes, and long. And so I said, I thought it's time to go, and I slept on it for a few weeks. I realized I want to get rid of it, and then I was like, but I'm not going to do it tomorrow, so I'll give it a few weeks. And every single day I was like, yep, I want to get rid of it. And so I decided to chop it off. Have not regretted it at all. It's nice to just put a little bit of shampoo in my hair and be done, not have to dry it, not have to worry about it getting tangled. It's nice. There are times when I was sleeping and I wouldn't have it up, where I would like turn over or something, and it was like caught in my arm or the pillow, and it would pull in the middle of the night.
Yeah, man.
It just, I don't miss it at all, especially the beard either.
Yeah, I mean, I cut my hair in September, and my hair was probably about down to here.
Oh, damn.
And I literally, man, like almost like word for word, exactly the same as you. Like whether I was like play fighting with my daughter or something, and it's like pulling hair out, and even just like the annoyance of like, if you're working out all the time, you're sweating, and then your hair gets dirty, and then you have to wash it all the time. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be spending all my time like grooming my hair. But at the same time, if you don't, you're going to look like a tramp, and it's like, you need to have some sort of standards, like, so it's just the impracticality of it, isn't it? I think that's what made me sort of take the plunge. What are your favourite music artists?
Man, it's Metallica is number one, mainly because I have the longest history with them. I've just listened to them for the longest. And there was a time when that's all I had was like Metallica CDs that my brothers had. And so I would just listen to those all the time. I got before football games, I would always listen to Metallica in my headphones. And so it's got to be Metallica as my number one favorite. But I like so much different music. Did you say metal or music?
Just any music. What your favorite artist
I like
in general?
so much different. I just really enjoy music, and I would say I have these like categories of bands that I like. I think more extreme stuff. Some of the people would call extreme, not necessarily extreme to a metalhead, but the more like death metal and kind of, I guess, faster thrash metal would be Sepultura, Slayer, Death. I really like them.
Me too, man.
And then I really like I do like Megadeth and Testament, kind of like I like thrash metal most. There are some death metal bands that I do like. It's not to say I dislike anyone else, but I just listen to them most often. But when I'm at home, my family doesn't want to hear that while I'm cooking dinner. So at home, it's tons of Bob Marley and something similar to that, other reggae stuff.
Just full on, mate, it's so fun. I've got this image of you like coming home from the gym, like blaring out Death in the car, and then you just coming into your house and it's like, no woman, no cry. It's like completely different feel.
Yeah. It will totally.
Cooking your peri chicken and getting your reggae sauce out.
Too. That was a good summary. You've been watching me, but that was good. And then I do enjoy just like rock and roll. Hard rock, not necessarily. It doesn't always have to be metal. So. I really like
Thin Lizzy, stuff like that.
Like The Sword.
All right,
I don't know if you've heard of them, but I would check out The Sword.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Like that. I like Queens of the Stone Age, that kind of stuff. So,
do you like any like old sort of like the more old hardcore sort of rock? Like as I said, like Thin Lizzy. I think everyone, people that sort of like think of like Boys Are Back in Town and songs like that. Obviously, Whiskey in the Jar, especially because Metallica sort of covered it, but. Man, they've got some freaking awesome and like quite heavy tracks. Like if you go into the more like their deeper stuff, like I don't know if you've checked them out much, but
I haven't checked out their deep cuts, but I would definitely, I should, because I do like the older stuff. I love Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and all that. Yeah. But if you look at a lot of the old pictures of a lot of famous bands, you'll see a lot of them wearing Thin Lizzy shirts. There's something to it. So it's definitely an influence. And
both Lars and and both Lars and James like credit Thin Lizzy as being two of their biggest influences. Two songs. Try and remember two songs to listen to. One is Thunder and Lightning. Man, it's insane, right? It's got like several insanely good guitar solos and then a synthesizer solo in the middle, which just blows my mind. And also Cold Sweat. It just starts off with this killer riff, and it's just balls to the wall the whole time. Like, I just don't see how somebody that doesn't like, if you like metal, I just don't even see how you couldn't like it, or like hard rock. Yeah, so one of my questions was going to be, do you listen to many genres of music outside of metal? But you sort of already answered that question. So apart from sort of like, is that your main sort of three you would say, just like rock, metal, and reggae? Do you listen to much else?
Yeah, I do. It's usually at home. It's always some chill music. So it's either reggae. I've been listening to a lot of Stick Figure lately. That's kind of just like American.
Who are they then? What sort of genre are they?
It's reggae, but it's like a California beach type reggae music. It's called Stick Figure. But I do like some older stuff like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin.
Classy.
And then sometimes I'll listen to older country stuff. My wife likes some country. I'm not particularly fond of the new stuff, but old country.
No, me neither.
So whether it's
like Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson. Yep. Like all of the legends.
Yes. So I'll
Did you listen to like, any like Towns Van Zandt, anything like that? Or?
No.
No. Yeah, man. I'll tell you what. There's still a really good scene. We had a really interesting guest last month, Angela Autumn, and she lives in. She's from Pennsylvania originally, but she lives in Nashville now because obviously that's like the place to be for all of those sort of musicians, and there's still just like such a mad scene there, and like really talented artists there still. So it's like, if you are into that stuff, there is just such an abundance of content just to check out if you have the time, you know.
Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies outside of the gym, other than cooking, I guess?
Yeah, cooking. No, I mean, there are hobbies that I have that I used to pursue a lot more, but I just don't as much. I'm kind of waiting for my kids to get into it, and then I can do it again. Like I grew up in California skateboarding. I do like snowboarding. But once they're interested in doing that stuff, then I'll do more of it. But no, any free time is spent. We like to go camping, so we'll do that often. Hiking, we just went on a short hike this weekend. So a lot of just outdoor stuff, getting the kids outdoors. But other than that, there's nothing that I like really spend a whole lot of time or money on. It's just spending time with family, working out, doing stuff for the gym, and that's it. Going on trips when we can, camping trips.
Yeah, man, I think like hiking is probably like my favorite thing to do with my family, just nothing better than just getting outdoors, just going on a good hike. You know, it's so good for you, taking in some good scenery, some fresh air, and like, you know, exposing your kids to that as well, just like nature, but also just, I always think that like, hopefully, you know, they'll look back and think, oh, you know, my parents took me some really nice places actually, like when I was a kid. That's a nice
absolutely.
What's your favorite movie?
Rocky. I would say Rocky 3 would be my favorite.
Nice.
With Clubber Lang.
Nice. Any close runners up?
No. I mean, there's nothing that I can think of. Nothing that automatically pops up.
So that's like your die-hard, number one favorite film of all time?
100%, yes.
I like how like you didn't even have to think about that as well, man. That's cool. What's your favorite food?
Oh, man. There are two, probably a tie for first. Well, okay, I'll go with this edges it out. Fajitas, a big plate of fajitas with the works. Guacamole, sour cream, some pico de gallo, rice, beans, chicken steak, even shrimp, fajitas, good tortillas, and a cold beer, I would say would be probably my last meal. I say the second place would be a big bowl of spaghetti and meatballs. Good from nice Italian restaurants. Spaghetti and meatballs with some bread and salad would be second, would be runner-up.
Can't go wrong, man. Can't go wrong. What's your favorite color?
Blue or red. Red and black were my high school colors, and so a lot of the Untamed Strength stuff tends to be red and black. But I'd say blue. Blue wins out,
Any future goals? Any like specific future goals you have, or?
Not in particular. I mean, I would like to just organically get to 1 million YouTube subscribers. It's about 850,000 now. Not that anything is going to change, but it would just be a cool thing to happen.
Milestone.
So 1 million subscribers, and then this year my lease ends on all of this space that I'm in for the gym, and so I either have to renew it or I've started the process, but I would really like to buy my own location so that Untamed can be its own location and not rented. So that would be that would be the goal.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I
was going to say, have you been looking at anywhere in particular, or is that just too far off in the future right now?
It would be just in the area, as close as I can, just so I'm not uprooting and ditching all the members, but as close as possible. And unfortunately, if I can't find anything around here, I don't know. I'll probably go to UK or something.
You actually been serious?
No.
I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't think you were actually going to move. I didn't know if you meant you would like open up a gym here as well or something. But
just thinking about the moving, even in this area, but moving all of this stuff would be nuts. No, I don't plan on going outside of Sacramento. So
what's your favorite country that you've been to, other than obviously your own?
This is the only country I've been to. The United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You've never left the US?
Nope. I've been to the Bahamas.
Sure.
But that's close enough. Never traveled outside of the United States.
Just not interested? Just not really interested in traveling?
Not really interested. I mean, no, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
I guess not interested enough to like carve out any time and spend money on doing it.
Sure. Fair play, man.
Yeah. But I don't, there's nothing that's like on my list of places I have to go.
Man, I respect that. I mean, you're a busy guy. You got a family. Like there's no need for you to travel. You live in a good place, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just before we go, we thought this was hilarious earlier on, man. So I said that I bought a couple of your t-shirts over the years. Our sound producer Drew, he's been my friend since I was 11 years old, right? So he's my hand me down.
You got a shirt on.
Whenever
I
get so
nice.
whenever I get too big, like big for my clothes anymore, I've always passed it down to Drew, right? And I've done this for a long time. But the funny thing is Drew's not like mad into training or anything, and this is just one of these weird serendipitous things. So Drew wore that in today, not even knowing that was like your
nice.
company brand or whatever. And I've never seen him wear it at work before, and he's just come and wearing it. And I was like, did you do that deliberately? Because that's like Alan's t-shirt. And Drew was like, no. So I just thought that was a cool story. I just had to mention to you, like, that is serendipity at its best. Like, never
perfect.
seen him wear that t-shirt before. And he just randomly wore that out of all of his wardrobe today. So that's just a great story, isn't it?
I love it, man. Thanks for buying that. That shirt did not come. I don't think I shipped that shirt out myself. I ship the shirts out now. They're on. Right. They're in the office. Nice. But I think that was a company that I worked with who would print it and ship it for me.
Right.
So it wasn't in my hands, but that was definitely a shirt that I sold. That's awesome. That's cool.
Nice, man. Is there anything else that you would like to say, like just like to anybody listening, like before we wrap up, or are you all good? I'm good, man. I think we covered a lot. Yeah, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. We've done like just over 3 hours, so I really appreciate you. I know you're a busy guy. I really appreciate you taking the time, man, to come on Pandora's Box today. And yeah, it's been absolutely great, man. Thanks so much. Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. If you had maybe like a final message, maybe like a 2-word final message for everyone out there, just to end, like what do you reckon that message would be? I would say to always remember, train on time.